More chips don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham, Wrexham, Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conway's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morrell. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morrell. What a chance! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Cardiff! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
It's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
NADOLIG LLAWEN, and welcome to the Christmas edition of the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week when a raccoon that passed out drunk after running amok in a Virginia liquor store is suspected of 2 other break-ins. Images of smashed bottles and the animal splayed out next to a toilet went viral last week, but the women who found him had revealed the raccoon has form. This is not the first time he's been in one of the buildings. This is the 3rd break-in he's had, said Animal Protection Officer Samantha Martin. He was also in the karate studio, and I think he got into the Department of Motor Vehicles, ate some of their snacks one time as well. Ms. Martin said the smart little critter had been removed both times from those businesses, which are in the same complex as the ABC liquor store in Ashland. The comatose raccoon was scooped off the floor and put in a crate to let him relax for a few hours at the animal shelter, but then later set free. Raccoons are well known for foraging in bins, earning them the Trash Panda nickname. Drunk in a toilet? Raiding the bins? Sounds like our Christmas party. Happy Christmas, Jamie and Daz!
Merry Christmas.
I think your Christmas tree's turned off, Jim. There we go. There it is. Oh. There it is. Hello, both.
I feel somewhat underdressed.
Yeah.
And Daz, hello and welcome back. How have you been?
Welcome.
I'm good. I mean, it's I tell you what, people out there, don't get a promotion. Your work seems to go up, and it doesn't seem quite worth it in the same way. But yeah, busy. Lots going on. So nice to be back, guys. Nice to be back.
Well, it's good to have you back, to be sure. A few bits and bobs happening around Wrexham this week. First one, Daz, Wrexham AFC have won the 2025 Gwobr Cymraeg Award for the annual Wrexham Business Community Award, celebrating the promotion and integration of the Welsh language in everyday operations. Wrexham partnered with the National Centre for Learning Welsh and Coleg Cumbria in 2023 to appoint a full-time Welsh language tutor, Hugh Birkhead, to promote the language. Since then, the club staff and fans have had the opportunity to learn the language and use it in their day-to-day work and private lives. Welsh is being heard more and more around the club since Hugh's appointment, with over 35 staff members signing up to lessons. For over a decade, the club have provided bilingual announcements at games and now has a Welsh language column in the matchday programme, as well as offering match reports in both languages. Additionally, both players and staff in our women's first team have attended lessons and used Welsh in their daily lives. Over 100 supporters from the likes of America, Australia, Germany and Singapore have also taken part in a 6-week intense Welsh language course, learning everyday phrases and developing their Welsh language skills. Llong fy chriadau to the club, Club Wrexham, da iawn ti. Daz, this is great news, isn't it? I mean, we don't, as Welsh speakers, and you are far more of a Welsh speaker than I am. You don't expect people to speak fluent Welsh. It's just engaging with the language is the important thing. And this is a great way to do it by the club, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole nature of the purpose of the awards, and in so many ways, a lot of businesses are trying to increase their access to it. You're doing it through schools, you're doing it through communities, and how better than to do it through a community foundation, like a cornerstone of a foundation of community, such as a football club. I think that's such a brilliant idea. I mean, I was blessed. I live and work, and my kids and everybody, we all speak Welsh, and I grew up around it, and I didn't know how lucky or how sort of particular my experiences was growing up in West Wales, and then to find out that it isn't so quite widely spoken in some areas, and only because opportunity, just familiarity, just access, all of that. So to put it in on a football club's responsibility to do that and to do it so well. I mean, I know we've seen Rob and Ryan, particularly Rob, really champion it from day one, which has just been excellent. And so just use it, just even if it's just hello, goodbye, whatever. I'm doing the same thing in my workplace. A lot of the guys I work with now, they're coming in new to the place, and the first thing they're doing is learning a little bit of Welsh. And why not? It's an important part of spending time in Wales and working and living here. So fantastic. And the club, is absolutely championing it. Couldn't ask for a better ambassador.
And it's great that there are, a section in the programme that is in Welsh. There is a review of the game in Welsh, and there's Welsh commentary as well. I mean, that's great to basically keep expanding the language. So that's how you keep a language alive, is using it in everyday situations, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think something like commentary is a really subtle way of doing it, where what's being said even if you don't know what's being said, and so it's quite an easy way to learn sort of key phrases, and to be able to pick up the tone. And yes, over the years we've had obviously subtitles 888 on the old CFAX, but there used to be 889, which was the translate 88, whatever. And so there's quite a few features over the years. So now it's embedded in captioning on all the sort of Netflix and platforms and stuff like that. Ryan insisted that one of his films, the one he did with The Rock, that had to have Welsh captioning as part of its offer before it was given to Netflix. So it's great that you can commit to that and to promote it in such an important way like that.
And last week, Jamie, Wrexham AFC have finally officially broken ground on the redevelopment of the Cop stand at the Stoke Kairas, making the beginning of the full construction phase of one of the most significant infrastructure projects in the club's history, according to the Wrexham AFC website. The ceremony, which was held on Wednesday, December the 4th, brought together representatives from the club, Wrexham County Borough Council, McLaren Construction Midlands and North, who are the builders, the Welsh Government, Wrexham University, alongside wider stakeholders from the Wrexham Gateway Partnership. The groundbreaking is a landmark moment in the long-awaited return of the Cop stand and signals the transition from extensive early site preparation to the main building programme. The new stand, set for completion during the 26-27 season, will restore the stadium to a four-sided configuration, increasing the capacity to just over 18,000 and enable Stoke Kairas to achieve UEFA Category 4 compliance. I know we've been talking about this for a while, Jamie, as you're looking like a rave. But this is great that we finally broke ground, and we've seen it. We've seen the hard work that's going in, with the piles that have been drilled to create the foundations. Plus, obviously, we talked last week about this major investment by Apollo Taxis, as Richie says on the Racecourse Ramble, by Apollo Sports Capital, which obviously that's going to help pay for a bill that looks like it's going to be between 30 and 40 million pounds. But this is great to finally see the official get the spade in the ground and let's get this thing built.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure they had a cup of tea once they put the spade in the ground. But
leaned on that shovel a little bit, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, like you say, it is a significant thing, isn't it? Because it does seem to have been going on for a long time now, with all sorts of red tape and I think obviously the funding and changing design and everything else. So yeah, for things to actually start being progressing now on the site is great. It'd be nice to start seeing some sort of physical structure to it, won't it? Over the next, coming months and things. I think they've been battling the elements because it's been soggy and wet non-stop pretty much for the last 2-3 weeks. So that's not going to help over the winter period. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that was interesting, I said to you on Saturday, the only thing that was interesting from that statement they put out when they broke the ground was the fact that there was reference to there was reference in the press release that the internal fit, they don't see that being done until 2027, which is obviously realistically it's starting to sound like not only it won't be ready for the start of next season, which we knew anyway, but it won't be possibly be the season after. So yeah, more ballot pain for the next 18 months for a lot of people, but it's all right because it's not like they're carrying on selling memberships, so you've got a good chance of getting one.
And it all depends on what the going rate is of your Lord Mayor. Has she got a good hourly rate there, sort of doing the shift?
I was going to say, yeah. Put you back
who
into
are
it,
those
love.
people? Yeah, exactly.
Although, is she off making us a nice cup of tea? You're not quite sure, are you, really? Am I allowed to say that anymore? No. Guess
I'm not sure you were ever there's no more about it. I don't think you're ever allowed to say that, but, Yeah. So.
Daz, you weren't here last week when we were discussing Cymru's potential World Cup if they managed to beat Bosnia and then either Italy or Northern Ireland in the playoffs.
Probably Italy.
Canada, probably Italy. Yeah, let's be honest. We'll say probably Italy. Canada, obviously, in the first game, which looks like one of the openers. Then over to Los Angeles to play Switzerland, and then Seattle to play Qatar. Or Qatar, depending on how you pronounce it. All the games are around the same time in the UK. So if you don't go out there, they're all 8 p.m. at night, which is perfect pub time for the fan zones and everything. So that's great for us if we make it. Obviously, there's a lot of talk. We talked a lot last week about the ticket prices. I just wanted to get your general feelings on how you feel if Cymru do manage to pull off the double win.
Yeah. Okay. I'm torn. I don't want any of my money going to that.
Careful.
He's got better lawyers than me. Okay. The current incumbent of the seal of the president of the United States has POTUS.
POTUS.
I don't know. This must be something else.
Orange POTUS.
Anyway, I don't want to give him any of my money. I don't feel like I want to go to America for that. So when I thought we were getting drawn against Canada and stuff like that, and maybe some Canadian legs to the games, I thought brilliant, because then that is sort of feels more, I don't know, palatable. I think that's the word I'm struggling with. It's like it felt palatable to give the money to the Canadian tourist board and to the Mexicans. Really, just not to that horrible person. But I appreciate that that's not my choice. Equally, we've got to qualify. So I'm not trying to run ahead before we're not walking yet, let alone running ahead. So I think we've got two very tough games to go first. But I do think they're winnable. And I do think even an Italy of old, historically, we know what they can do, but they're not the team of old. That's not to say they won't turn up against us. They won't turn up against Northern Ireland. I mean, there's no disrespect to Northern Ireland, and I keep saying Northern Ireland, Italy, probably Italy, but Northern Ireland on their day can beat Italy, and
absolutely.
So I really do think it could be, but if we were to get there, obviously, my family keep reminding me and I don't know if I've got the funds, because when you start adding it up, the flights, then the transfers within the nations, it's just like it's like each individual trip is going to be a whole holiday on its own merit, and then the ticket prices itself then just swamp the whole idea. I mean, I really can't see the average Joe, and I'm one of them. I can't see myself going now because they've just priced me out of the market.
I actually did an experiment. I actually priced to what if I could get the tickets and go to Switzerland, because Los Angeles is the place I'd want to visit. Although it would be great to go to Canada and it would be great to go to Seattle, Los Angeles is where I want to go because I've never been, and it would set me back around about £4,500 just to attend that one game.
Yeah,
if I can get the prices where I'm thinking they are now. The problem is there will be a huge add-on when it comes to this.
I know some people are making some early bookings now, just on the hope, which is insane. You can do that with accommodation. You can do the old free cancellation, but flights is near impossible. But flying into Canada, flying wherever they need to go. I mean, I'd love to go to Seattle. Seattle's just on my list. It's just one of those places where I want to go. I'd love to go to Canada. All of that. Los Angeles, of course, everybody wants to go to Los Angeles. So this is a perfect draw in so many ways. Again, without trying to run ahead from ourselves, teams that we know we can compete against in terms of progression in the group. So it's because we've had friendlies against.
Canada, we want to get revenge over, and apart from that one free kick, we pretty much held them.
Yeah.
Switzerland is a doable game. We'd have to work hard, whatever. And then Qatar, I think we could beat Qatar, no problem at all.
Yeah. So I think on our day with the current Bellamy setup and a full fit team, I mean that's loads of caveats all the way through this. If we don't have a Wilson, if we don't have a Brooks, if we don't have all our players on top form, yes, of course we're going to struggle in many other ways as well. But I just thought that it's the crooks. I am going to call them the crooks. The crooks in FIFA. The idea of 7 or 8 times the prices that were in the last World Cup is just scandalous.
Yep.
I've already heard somebody in an official position say, "Well, if the fans don't want to travel, that's fine. There's plenty of Americans who will pay those prices," which is just shocking. And then they're killing the competition because they're going like there's only like 8% or something of the crowds that are going to be home guaranteed anyway, or something like that initially, and then they were going to increase as they go. But there's hardly going to be any home fans in any of these games, and it's just going to be down to the ballots. And I just think, what do they want? It's not a supported tournament. It's not the best bit about the World Cup is all the international fans that come with it and travel with it, and you mingle with them. As much as in the Euros in 2016, I was mingling with Russians. I mean, it's hard to think about that now, but mingling with Russians or less so the English, weirdly, don't know. But the travel, the community that travels is just an amazing experience to meet up with people and hang out and just whichever city you're going, and then meet the locals in each of those cities as well. So why not? Why do you want to make it impossible? And that for us, I would say, is borderline not affordable, but we're an affluent community. We're an affluent nation. There are plenty nations who have qualified for this World Cup. Some for the first time in a long time. African nations, Asian nations who do not have this level of disposable income. God knows how they can even remotely dream of it. And that's just I think it's insulting to the game and really poor taste, and it really smacks of corruption to me.
As I said to Jamie last week, I was reminded about the classic quote by Jock Stein that football without the fans is nothing, and I think this is absolutely taking the fans out of the equation, and what you'll have is dead, soulless games that will have very little atmosphere and will not feel like the greatest football cup competition in the world at all for me.
Yeah, and some of those stadiums are not designed for football; they're designed for other sports, and so they're already quite open. And so generating a noise and an ambient, it's a different kind of atmosphere anyway. So they're gonna have to work really hard. Well, I think without the fans, it's going to be impossible, and it will be dead. No.
Thing is, we won't be saying this if we get through, and you and me will be on the plane going to Las Vegas first, obviously for
they might hear you. Shush.
So Saturday, and we're back at the Stoke Kairos, welcoming Watford to in the EFL Championship, which was great, cold, wet, windy, as we would expect. Jamie, let's look at the lineup first versus Watford. And as we predicted, after the whole loss, Parky rang the changes, 5 changes in fact, from that loss versus Hull City. Doyle in for Scar in defence, Longman in for Barnett on the wing, Matty James and O'Brien in for Sheaf and Thomason, and Windass in for Broadhead. You said last week that you thought he would probably stick with most everything else and freshen up the midfield. He did more than that. Were you surprised?
No, not in the cold light of day, because you and I were talking about this before the game, before the team news came out, and I was right. I was right with it, other than one, and you, to be fair, you got it spot on. The only one that I thought was he might have gone with Sheaf instead of Matty James, but Doyle coming in was a no-brainer. O'Brien coming in and Windass coming in, I just think they were givens, to be fair. From a wing-back perspective, again, wasn't surprised to see Longman come back in because I don't think Barney did much at all, to be fair, in the previous game. So, I was sort of reasonably happy with that starting lineup, or very happy with that starting lineup. You know, the changes that I felt needed to be made were made. Me personally, I would have just gone with Sheaf over Matty James, but you know, not too much of an issue.
Daz, I'll ask you about your general thoughts in a minute because I know you've been kind of watching from afar, so I won't drill down into anything. Jamie, this was a bit of a weird one for me. This game, I kind of at the end felt, I don't know whether I felt like I was happy that we'd managed to rescue a draw, or upset that the display I'd hoped for after Hull didn't really materialise. I mean, we played better, but at times barely. We were undone by two fairly innocuous goals. The first one, certainly. The second one, poor defence. Goals for us, and I'll just talk about the first goal first. You know, I'll talk about the first goal, which was great. But, you know, what of the first half in particular, let's look at the first half. What were your thoughts on this game?
I think the first 15, 20 minutes was okay. Up until the point we got the goal, which I was surprised that it was the 21st minute. I thought it was a little bit earlier than that. I thought it was like the 17th or 18th minute. But up until we scored, we were okay. Like you say, a marked improvement over the whole performance. But then, to be fair, they could have hopped around on one leg and it would have been a better performance.
That's true.
So, yes, it was encouraging. We started the game better, and then get that goal. Which, to be fair, to win that, it was. I mean, the ball from Matty James is superb. You know, as much as I was saying a minute ago about, I prefer. You know, I would have preferred Sheaf over Matty James. You know, that was a cameo from Matty James of exactly what he's capable of. You know, his vision and his ability to hit precise passes like that is just brilliant. And it was a superb ball and a really great finish. Almost a strange one when I watched it back, because it's like he seemed to have all the time in the world, and you could almost say to yourself, you can see exactly what's going to happen here. It was just crazy that the defenders didn't get close to him, and the goalkeeper didn't get anywhere near it. But you can't knock the finish. When I watched it back, I suppose this maybe got sort of something to come back to maybe towards the end, but I thought his celebration was interesting. Incredibly muted. Didn't look to be any kind of pleasure or joy in it.
You think he was scoring against one of his old teams? It seemed like that, but he's never played for Watford, so that can't be.
I mean, like I say, if we've got time, or maybe to come back to it at the end, but I thought the celebration was interesting. But no, at that point, fair enough. We got the goal. We probably got the goal we deserved. I think that the rest of the first half, though, the issue is, as soon as we scored, we sat back. You know, we didn't try and push forward and try and get another goal. We sat back and fundamentally let, not a great team, you know, no disrespect to Watford, but the fact that their fans were singing for a big chunk of the game, how shit must you be, we're winning away, kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Well, they've only won away once in the last 9 or something like that, or last 10. So, and you only have to look at the stats there for the whole game. You know, neither side were peppering the goal with decent shots.
If there was a championship for shithousery, Watford would be top of it, because you know they deployed every dark art in the book to try and waste time and slow the game down, break the game up, get bookings and things. So, but as a football team, they weren't great. And again, I think going back to what you said at the start about how you felt after the game, I think the more I thought about it after the game, the more I'm quite annoyed, because it's very much a team we should be beating at home. You know, I very much see it as 2 points dropped rather than a point gained, even though the way the game played out. But yeah, the rest of the first half was just frustrating, because it set the tone for the rest of the game, which was frustrating, because we sat back after we scored. We sat back, we invited them onto us. We just did the basics badly. You know, we were sloppy in possession. There was no urgency. The thing that peed me off more than anything was our challenges on the second balls. We didn't win a second ball all game. You know, no matter how the ball was whether it was from a header, whether it was a stray pass, we just struggled to get near a second ball all game. And yeah, it was a really frustrating second half of the first half, which then carried on into the second half.
Obviously, the two goals. One of them was unfortunate because it bounced off Cleworth, wrong footing of Conco, going into the wrong side of the net. I mean, were there question marks there, Jamie, about should they have closed him down a bit quicker?
Again, the ability to watch goals back and watch highlights back is such a big thing, because you only see it live. You only get a certain perspective of it. At first, I thought it was a great strike, but then I didn't realize how big of a deflection it had taken. But you're quite right. What was really frustrating when you watch the goal back is the midfield and defensive combination, and the fact that he was given the freedom of the Kairos, to be fair, because how he's found himself with so much space to be able to get that shot off is just crazy. There were 3 or 4 players in red around him, all of which none of them you would say were like breaking a gut to try and get a tackle in. And I think from his point of view, all he can do is what he's done, which is try and hit the target, and sometimes you get a bit of luck, and he's got his luck. Unfortunate for Arthur, because he had no chance. But yeah, defensively, a really disappointing goal to concede. And it's a bit following on from the whole game, the defensive side of things. It's not something we've been used to, because in the last couple of months we've been brilliant defensively, but then we've been a bit iffy the last couple of games, which is odd. But yeah, really, that first goal was really disappointing one to concede.
I was going to ask Daz. I mean, obviously, we had it, didn't we? That Wrexham defensively were fairly poor for the first probably 4 or 5 weeks, and we were very porous, letting in loads of goals. They seem to have steadied that ship, certainly with Hyam coming in at the back, and obviously we had Scar for a while. Now Doyle's replaced Scar. But the last 2 games in particular, we've sort of started to regress back into that, having a leaky defence, a little bit out of shape, players not, sticking, close marking. Daz, is there a danger that we're starting to slip back into old habits, and that could be exceptionally dangerous in this division?
Oh, I mean, yes. To answer that last bit of the question, yeah, you don't want to give even half a yard of potential for your opponents, your rivals around you, to think that there's a chance. If they see a weakness, they're going to sniff it out. But are you slipping back in terms of the quality of the play? I mean, I don't watch them the same way as you do. I've been busy recently, so I haven't seen the games in the same way. So I mean, I've seen some of the goals. I mean, you said it yourselves. There's been some bad luck with those goals this week. That was a bit unfortunate. Whereas the Wrexham goal seemed like there was a bit of quality in at least those 2 particular finishes. But the idea that your defense is leaking again, it would be a worry, because I could see that getting into the mindset quite easily, because you've been there, you've done that, and the fans. I suppose my question to you guys, having been there regularly, when the nerves kick in, when that home crowd was, you said there was obviously some housery between Watford and the Wrexham crowds this week, but what was the general atmosphere in terms of, was it like a here we go again, we're losing, and this is the beginning of another run, or do you feel like there was still hope and spirit in the group?
I think.
Well, I don't know about you, Jamie, but when that first goal went in, Watford, their backs were up, and I just felt, there's going to be a second goal. It just felt that way. I don't know. Was I wrong on that one?
No, I agree. I think once they got that first goal, unlike when we'd scored the first goal, they carried on pushing forward, and we struggled to deal with it. I mean, to answer Daz's question, I think there's a strange sort of air amongst the fan base at the minute. I think it's difficult because you can't talk for everybody. Yes, we're fortunate that we speak to a lot of different people from different fans from different areas and things. But I think I think as long as you're being sensible and you remember that before you criticise or feel anything about the way the team's performing, yes, we're still happy about where we're in the Championship, and we're still happy about where we are in the Championship and all that jazz. And that's fair enough, and nobody's forgetting that. But you then bring it back to the football on the field, and it is frustrating. There's no other way for it. It's impossible to just be a happy clapper, being happy that we're in the Championship and we're mid-table, just because we should be happy for that. I think there's a certain level of expectancy of what you see on the pitch, and I think effort and desire is a absolute must for any football fan from their team. I think, I think it doesn't matter how much your team is worth, how much your players are getting paid. I think as a fan of any team, all you want to see from your players and from your team is that they're giving everything they can. And that at times is frustrating with some of the Wrexham players, I think. And maybe I'm doing them a disservice, but I can only base it on what I see and the way they play the game. Against Hull, the whole team looked like they weren't asked. On Saturday, there's one or two that their body language, I said to Si as we were leaving, that just something doesn't feel right to me at the minute. There just doesn't something that it's hard to, I can't put my finger on it, but just something doesn't seem right or doesn't seem well amongst the camp as a whole. But I'm only basing that off what I'm seeing. But I think that the problem is that when you get immersed in the game, no matter what position you're in, you do get frustrated when your team aren't playing well or aren't kind of driving forward, or the opposition are creating chances or winning or whatever it might be. So I know much has been said about the atmosphere in the racecourse this season. I noticed a lot of discussion online again. I don't know if you saw it, Si. I saw a lot of discussion online again about the atmosphere. It's a tricky one, that, because we've had this conversation before, and I'm not sure I necessarily buy into the ballot is the reason why the atmosphere is dead. I'm not saying that isn't the reason. It might well be, but I'm not sure I agree. But for me, I've always been a firm believer in that the atmosphere is heavily driven by what's going on the pitch. And I think if there's not a lot of excitement going on the pitch, and there's not a lot of going on to kind of get you up and get you out your seat, I think that has an effect on the atmosphere. But it's a big vicious circle, isn't it? Because I think the players feed off the fans, and the fans feed off the players. So it's just one of them. But you get some that are over the top with I could be wrong, and I'm hoping it was aimed at the referee. But again, at half time, we're going 2-1 down, and there was I heard a few faint boos from around the ground, and I'm guessing, I'm hoping that was aimed at the referee, because he had made a couple of dodgy decisions. But you do start thinking to yourself, God, I hope that's not booing the team because they've had a poor half. Yes, it was poor, it was frustrating, it was disappointing, but Christ, booing them is crazy. If that's what it was. But it's a tough one, because I think if you ask most level-headed fan, they're obviously happy about where we're at. Probably we're sat in the league, probably where we all thought we would be or hoped we would be, which is mid-table. It just gets a little bit frustrating, I think, on a game-by-game basis when you isolate the game.
Well, Marmar scored Watford's second goal, again unmarked inside the box, which was, there was a little bit of lucky deflection, because Wrexham defenders were trying to defend it, but it just jumped to him. But he was completely unmarked on the back stick. You can't do that at this level. You can't leave players like that unmarked. Yeah, I think they're going to score.
It really highlighted, or it was a great visual highlight to sort of sum up Ryan Longman's day. He was partially to blame. I think Matt. I don't think Max was did him a lot of favours either. But yeah, Longman was the one mainly who got done. And I think that kind of summed up his afternoon, to be honest with you. I thought he was poor. But yeah, again, from a defensive point of view, terrible goal to give away. I mean, for him to have as much room as he did on the back post when the ball's found him via a deflection as well was crazy. And again, nothing Arthur can do about it. When I was looking at the match, the ratings before, Arthur's got really crap score from Saturday, and I felt bad for him because the fact that he's conceded 2 goals was no reflection on his performance at all.
Well, second half, Wrexham tried to put the pressure on but couldn't finish. Parky threw not just the kitchen sink on, but the whole kitchen as the half went on. As by the 90th minute, Sheaf, Broadhead, Barnett and Hardy were all on for Matty James, McLean, O'Brien and Dobson, meaning Windass, Moore and Broadhead were all on the field. Wrexham still couldn't make the breakthrough, helped by some great time wasting by Watford, and they were superb at it. 90 minutes, Parky threw the final die as Ollie Rathbone came on for his first minutes in the Championship, replacing Hyam, loading the attack. Rolling the die, Parky threw a lucky 7. 92 minutes, cometh the hour, cometh the man. A bobbling ball in the box fell to Ollie on 20 yards, and he hit a fantastic drilled shot to the crowded box and into the goal. You could almost write it. If I haven't said this before, if we weren't in a documentary, you could almost write it. I mean, Ollie has had a torrid time this season. Last season's player of the season, Daz, gets injured in the summer away from home in Australia. Struggles. He played again in that game against Cardiff. Didn't really make much of an impact. Had another niggle then after that, which kept him out for another 6 weeks. So he's been great on the training field. Comes on, 2 minutes, scores the equaliser, and gets voted man of the match, which I think is the most stupidest idea.
Really?
Yeah, he got man of the match. He's been on. I mean, what a smack in the face for everybody who played 90 minutes is that he comes on and he gets man of the match. I mean, ridiculous. But if you're gonna write it, Daz, this is what you do, isn't it? This is how you write it. You get and his celebration was superb. Complete, as Jamie said, juxtaposition of Windass's display, which was like he just literally bought a lottery ticket and not won. Whereas Ollie was like a terrier, wasn't he, Jamie? Running around like, I want to run. He was brilliant. I mean, this is classic football.
Yeah, and I think that response you're saying that he's running around like a terrier, and it's a passion, it's a built up tension, it's about all sorts of I can't imagine what it's like to be an elite athlete who can't do the thing they're doing for a period of time. It's everything you train for. It's everything that your life's been sort of centered around. And so if you get an injury and that stops you from doing what you want to do,
it is hard. It's hard. Like, I've been an elite athlete myself, and I've had injuries. It's really hard. Like,
how is that tin leg these days? Is it ever? Is it going to recover?
Listen, my biceps in top form though.
You have another health beer, Jamie. You'll be fine from that point of view.
Yeah, I think the idea. Then you've got to come back, and he. Obviously, you said he had such a good season last year. He was pivotal to a lot of the good times, and to see then a lot of new faces come in positions that he's probably directly competing for would have been demoralizing, questioning his faith in the leadership and in the manager's faith in him. You can have the best season clearly that he had last year, and that still wasn't good enough. But not to be able to then contend for those places would have been absolutely gutting. So there's that to begin with. And yes, maybe in the few appearances that he's had or chances that he's had, it didn't quite go quite right or whatever. So, but long-term injury, all of that. But just any player coming back and to do it in such a way, like you say, a couple of minutes on the pitch, but fresh. The whole point of fresh legs, fresh eyes, the energy. That's your job as a sub. You've got to come in, you've got to act, and you've got to sort of respond to. Yes, your manager's saying go out and do a job. Your manager's giving you some tactics that some guidance. But ultimately, you've got to assess where you've got to be on the pitch, and you've got to try and influence it. And to be fair, he saw the ball come at him. It landed sweetly. As in first touch was good, and then he leathers it and. In his favour, it does go through a lot of bodies. It goes through a lot of bodies to get through to the goal. I still think the keeper yeah, he probably sees it late, but it's not that he's not drilled it into such a velocity that he can't, get to it. But it's that difference of it going through bodies. But if you don't take the shots and get them on target, then that's what it looked like to me from the very brief highlights I saw from Watford, is that they had a couple of shots, and like you said, even there if they're on target, the deflection helps, blah blah blah. But if you've not getting your shots, because your stats there earlier was sort of saying like how many shots were on target, like 3 or something. I missed how many it was, but it wasn't
3.
It was 3. So that's not good enough. So why not take a shot? Why not have a pop at it whilst everybody's tired and everybody's distracted? And also you're the new guy, so people don't actually think, okay, is he as much of a threat? I don't know. I don't know. There's enough going on when those changes happen. There's enough disruption that you can, catch the defense a little bit, asleep. And we know in the 90 plus minutes, teams are already got one eye on the ref, one eye on the clock. So therefore not looking at the game anymore because they're trying to play every other factor of the game. And teams are vulnerable, and fair play to Wrexham. They, kept the pressure on at least enough to give Rathbone a platform to score, and he took it. I just think, yeah, it sounds like it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, and his reaction says everything about it, about that. Built up tension, all that stress, all that reaction was just pure, built up frustration coming out in absolutely the best way. And fair play to him. So yeah, I was pleased to see. I was really happy to see that. It was good connection. Got it on target. What else can you ask?
Wrexham continued to try and win the game. Hardy could have maybe won it to the death, put the shot over the bar. I mean, where I was sitting, I literally was directly opposite me. He was leaning way back and had 2 defenders closely on him. So I think if he would have been able to score, it would have been, but he would have been an incredible goal. But he was already leaning back and he was stretching out wide. So you're just thinking, yeah, he's not going to put his foot through the ball. And Wrexham finished 2-2, finished the week 15th, 1 place lower, 28 points. So 6 points off the playoffs, 9 points off the relegation zone. A question for you each. Jamie first. As I said earlier, I've just got a weird feeling at the end of this. I can't work out whether this felt like a draw that is a win or a draw that is a loss. And even 72 hours later, I'm still can't work out whether I am happy that we drew or I'm annoyed that we didn't play better against a team which I thought we could have taken. I mean, how do you feel about it? And obviously you can talk about Windass as well, because you talked about it, and I completely agree with everything you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of very quickly, I mean, the second half of the game was, for me, was fascinating on so many levels. I mean, he sent the same team out and gave it till the 60th minute to see if there was any change, and there wasn't. We carried on the same way, and we were pretty dross, to be fair. And then starts to make the changes to chase the game. I mean, you said it there when you were talking about the second half before. At times in that second half, I didn't have a clue what was going on with the players that he brought on, and neither did the players, because I was watching and you could see pockets of players. There was Sheaf was talking to Dobson, was one I noticed. There was a couple of others as well, where they're literally practically looking at each other, not got a clue what they're doing. So it was literally just a all-in, no real clue, just to try and get something back. It was really interesting that Smith wasn't brought on. Hardy was brought on and not Smith. That was interesting. The man of the match thing was an absolute joke. The fact that Ollie Rathbone gets man of the match after coming on the 89th minute. Callum Doyle was the man of the match by a mile.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
He was superb. But I think, in regards to your feelings about, happy with a draw or disappointed that we didn't win, for me, it's 2 points dropped. I think when I look at when I look at Watford and the way they played and the type of team they are, I didn't think much of them at all. I think that's very much a team we should be beating. If you look at this game, you look at, say, the Sheffield Wednesday game at home, 2 teams where we should be picking up 6 points, and we picked up 2. So for me, disappointing. I think the kind of the thought kind of I've come away from, and I did chat to you about this to you on the car on the way back, where I was sort of saying, if you look at our last 4 performances, we've not played particularly well. You know, if you go back to Blackburn, Preston, Hull, and then this game, that's 4 games there. We've not, 2 home, 2 away, and we've not played particularly well in any of them games. And it feels a little bit like I don't think it was last December. It was the December before, I think, where we had that spell over Christmas where we didn't play well, but we still managed to scrape wins. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens in these next couple of weeks with this busy festive period, because, if we carry on playing like we have done the last 4 games in the next 4 games, for example, it'll be interesting to see whether we get the luck that we've had previously, because if we don't carry on getting some of that luck, we could have some very difficult results coming up. But yeah, on Windass, I know there's been a lot of criticism of Broadhead and kind of the way he looks and the way he plays and his kind of general demeanour. He kind of falls into this bracket as well, but there are some others. I'm just a bit confused with Windass in particular, but with a couple of the players and their general kind of demeanour. It just doesn't look right to me. Now, I've not followed, I'm aware of Josh Windass and I'm aware of his career and what he's done, and I've seen him play in other teams and I've seen him score goals in other teams, but I don't know whether that's just the norm for him. But I just find it odd. He cuts a figure to me, and I think I said this to you against when we were talking about the whole game last week, because he didn't start the game. He hasn't started the last couple of games before this one. He cuts a figure to me where he's almost trying to make a point with his body language, where he's trying to say or let people know that he's pissed off because he's been dropped. Now, again, it could be completely wrong, but I can only base it on what I see. And he just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't look right. It's maybe it's a conversation for another day, but I'm not really on the kind of Josh Windass loving bandwagon that there seems to be. I think he's a very, very good player. He is a very good player, but I have to be honest, and he's done some brilliant things so far for us. He scored now 5-6 goals, which is great. He's several assists. He got the hat-trick of assists for Keith Moore against Coventry. But if you look at it over the course of the season so far, and you watch him in full games, I don't know, he goes missing for big parts of the game. But I guess the caveat to that is that he's got the ability to do something special, hasn't he? Which is possibly why he's there. But I don't know. He's not doing himself any favours, I don't think, with just his general demeanour at the minute. But he's not the only one. There are others as well. But I saw or I heard somebody talking online about the players that we've brought in this transfer window, and there was sort of a suggestion that for the first time in all the transfer windows Parky's had, there's arguably more misses than hits so far with this group. Because if you look at some of them, Lewis O'Brien, another one, he was anonymous on Saturday. And that's a player that's come in, from a lot of fan bases, believe one of the best midfielders in the league. Maybe he is, maybe he will be. But he was miles off it again on Saturday. He
made a joke. He made a joke on his own social media, didn't he? Basically about shooting like a stormtrooper.
Well,
basically just shooting and missing constantly, which
Yeah, I mean,
the fact that he said that or he retweeted that, I think, speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I mean, if he can make it click and he can actually start converting some of these chances, then happy days. But at the minute, he's
but you look in his career, he's not a goal scorer.
No.
He scored maybe four or five goals in the last few seasons. He's not a goal scorer. That's not his job.
Yeah.
His job is a playmaker. And at the moment, he's not doing that. So that's maybe something else.
I think at the end of the day, like I said before, we should be, and I'm ecstatic with where we're at this point of the season. We're mid-table, which is great.
You don't sound it.
No, but I'm happy with where we're at as a position in the league, given that we're back in the Champions and all that usual bullshit and everything else. But looking at it on a game by game basis from a footballing perspective, I think we're capable of so much more. That's the frustration. We're capable of so much more. But let's see what these next few games bring. We've got we talked about the last 4 games. I think we've got a tough run of games coming up now.
Daz, let's have a bit of positivity, shall we? I mean, you've obviously been away for a few weeks. We've bust a nine unbeaten run at Hull last week, which is great. We're mid-table. It could be a lot worse. You look at Charlton Athletic at the moment, and they are in free fall. They were up in 5th. The last 6 games, they've lost 5, drawn 1. They are absolutely, you're going to have to need a parachute. It could be a lot worse, but, should Wrexham fans be kind of concerned going, well, we're not winning enough, that's not good enough? Or should we be kind of, well, we are new, not wanting to upset Jamie. We are new. We're new in this league, first time on this level for 50 years. We're doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the assumption that Watford were a team that could be beaten, I don't know. I don't watch them enough, but if you look at their results, they've won and lost and drawn as many games as you have for the last 5 or whatever. So you were pretty matched evenly, the same as Birmingham or West Brom or somebody. There's a lot of teams around you. So actually, you're all much of a muchness in that middle part of the table. So I think there's a lot of positivity to be said about you could beat any of those teams on their day. Equally, a tight, close draw like this one was also on the card. I think it's really even, as long as you're not, like I say, the Charltons, the results there have just been bizarre. And then you've got the other extreme, which is like a Sheffield Wednesday, where you're just so hopelessly rudderless in terms of focus and everything. So you've got a sliding scale. I mean, any one team can get a run of results together. I mean, was it Stoke that I noticed that were doing okay, and then suddenly they've lost 3 games in a row or something? So, any one team can get that kind of pattern built up, and then they can lose that pattern as well. So I think that if you were to ask many Wrexham fans before the start of the season, we say this all the time, mid-table, you'd be happy with that. And so, yeah, be happy with that. And I think there's a lot of good teams in there, and there's the teams that have been surprising, some teams that have surprised us negatively as well as positively. So to just be avoiding some of those horror stories and avoiding, like I say, you're not thumping anybody's 5-6-0 or anything, but you're not also losing some horrible results either in that way. Yes, you can say Hull was disappointing, but you get one of those every now and again. You know what I mean? But Hull were 5-10 places ahead of you or something. No, whatever it was. So
yeah, in the playoffs
at the time. At the time, they're in the playoffs and still just about. So yeah, I think this is good. I think everybody should be really happy about it, because it's you'd rather be there than say fighting the relegation, which I know a couple of key. I was trying to do the math. You win a couple of games and you're in the same points as who's in the playoffs now. But also, if you lose a couple of games, you lose ground and you could be in the relegation. It's very tight. It's very tight. So let's be positive. I think being in the middle is a good place to be.
It's a good job. It's Christmas with that glass half full, Daz. Yay! So Sunday at the Rock, and this is the repeat of a fantastic game last week at Wrexham versus Aberystwyth Town. Glad Daz is here this week, because looking forward to talking about this one with Daz, because I'm sure he is glowing with the display that Aber did last week and the display they've done this week. First of all, Daz, let's look at the lineup for Wrexham. 2 changes after the win last week over Aberystwyth Town. Burke in for Clark and Knox in for Cara Jones. Obviously, you've been away for a number of weeks. I'm not sure how much of the women you've seen. I've said for a few weeks that I feel now that Jenny Sugarman has a core. She knows now who her core is, and she is tinkering at the edges, particularly, I think, adding Rosie Hughes, because she is on form at the moment. I mean, is that kind of something you when you look at it from afar, you've gone, yep, I can see that happening?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've talked about the positive purchases. They've done well in terms of enticing some quality players. I think the return of some of Rosie's form is something incredibly powerful in terms of infectious. It's and because I thought originally when I saw her in the team sheet, I thought, oh, okay, not been absolutely firing. But one thing I do know is that she likes to score a goal against Aberystwyth. So it was sort of double-edged, that one, but they've given their all. They've been playing well, and they've been matching Cardiff, and now arguably it's the race is on. So you've seen this progression with the Wrexham side, and to be able to bring back some quality into the team that you've already built up as well is it was frightening in that sense. So a really, really solid team, and some really good performances of late. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that there's that core now that you can identify.
Well, what a fantastic cup game this was. I mean, Aberystwyth again put up a fantastically strong display against Wrexham. Getting all the way to half-time with it still being 0-0, threatening the goals at times, particularly from the corners. The corners were superb. Morelly Hughes was back from suspension against Swansea, and boy, did she cause trouble on the wing, which was great. Jamie, I'm going to break here, and I'm going to ask you about Aberystwyth. From the point of view that obviously last week absolutely gave Wrexham a hard time. This week, even more so. How pleased are you that a team that most people who watch the General Adran are going, it's Aberystwyth, they've got no decent players, and yeah, they're probably going to get relegated. That's what we were saying at the beginning of the season. They struggled last season, and we think there's a danger of relegation. They've played 180 minutes here of fantastic football against a very, very strong General Adran side.
I think we gave them loads of credit last week for their performance because none of us saw that coming. None of us. Well, obviously me and you talking about it in here, and I think we all predicted a comfortable Wrexham win last week. But the way they performed last week was impressive. But to come back and do it for a second week on the trot was massive amount of credit. And not only that, but to have to make some key changes as well, because I think they had their striker from last week had to go in goal.
Amy Jenkins in goal, which of course we have seen her before, but she terrorises us last week, and then they stick her between the sticks, and she pulls out some fantastic saves. The fact that we need her out on the pitch. That's the thing. It's just but. What an incredible athlete, just to be able to do that. There aren't many players that can genuinely get in goal and actually perform as well as she did, So no, fair play. I mean, they kept quite a few shots, really pushed it onto the post, onto the goal, crossbar and stuff. So really making some decent saves. I mean, Wrexham for their part, they did have some shots. But Jamie, they were wasteful. Am I fair in saying that? Particularly for the first half, they had lots of chances and just could not put them in the back of the net. Some down to some great saves by Amy Jenkins, so also great defending, but some of it was just poor finishing.
It certainly looked and sounded that way. I'll be honest, I struggled because I was trying to watch the first half, but iFollow was I'd have been better off trying to watch it on a dodgy Fire Stick.
It was Spanish telly at its best. Yeah, it was
terrible.
Very, very cool.
So I didn't get much joy of seeing any of the first half, and then I had to go out, so I didn't see the second half. So, but yeah, certainly from bits I saw, highlights, and then what I heard, yes, it was very much we were on the front foot, and we were creating the chances. But again, credit to Abo, because it was that sort of steely defending, making it difficult, and you can create all the chances in the world, but if you can't put them away, it doesn't mean nothing.
Well, second half, as Daz said, Rosie Hughes, 2 minutes in, Rosie Hughes continuing her goal scoring against Aber, putting the ball in the net. Wrexham tried to put the game to bed, but again, just couldn't seem to put the ball in the back of the net, which was quite annoying. Aberystwyth had a few chances, but the chances they had, they did take. They took the chance to make it level on 72 minutes. Morley Hughes beat the defender, so beat Leah on the wing, fired a shot in from the far corner, leveled the game. I mean, Morley Hughes, Daz, we've seen her play for a number of years for Abba. She is deadly from that wing, isn't she?
Yeah, pace and a decent strike. I mean, that's the thing. Lily's such a potent weapon and has been scoring consistently. I mean, I think that's one of the things about Aber I've been impressed with, is that you're right. The numbers of shots, perhaps they don't compete with some of the more traditional big teams, but there's some accuracy there. It feels, because their conversion rate is pretty good. I mean, they're a hard team to beat. We know that on their day, when they're organised and they're really well structured, they do make it difficult for other teams to get through. They're really well organised, and some between Lily Morley Hughes and Imogen Schofield and players like that, they are really good players and play for the badge. Absolutely quality. Absolutely give it their all. In what is a demanding and challenging league. You're playing one week, you're playing your Cardiff, so your Swansea, and then the next week you've got your first of a double header against Wrexham, and then you got to go again. So it's been quite tough for them, but they absolutely. But yeah, Morley Hughes' effort, fair play, and this made for an exciting end to the game, really.
Absolutely. Well, Wrexham continued to battle. As I say, Hughes was a constant threat on Wrexham's left wing. 80 minutes, though, Wrexham got the ball bobbling around the box. It fell to Bartle on the back stick, who curled in a shot, unsighted by the goalkeeper for 2-1. I mean, Jamie, it was... you can't blame the goalkeeper, really, because there were a lot of players in that box, but was it more kind of Bartle's absolutely picked the right place and just curled that into the far corner?
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent strike, and... but like you said, it went through a few bodies, so it always makes it more difficult. Like Daz was saying when we were talking about the Watford game, in Rathbone School, it always makes it a bit more difficult. But it's one of them, isn't it? I think you'd rather be, when there is a little bit of a grey area of was it good attacking or poor defending, you always like to give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker. But yeah, it was a decent strike, and made it very, very difficult to stop, to be fair.
And Wrexham tried to contain and tried to, get the killer blow, but Aber were absolutely up for the fight, really attacking on the break and causing Wrexham's defence some massive problems. Wrexham, I felt, got a little bit complacent. The substitutions made, I feel, maybe set us back rather than were beneficial in this case, because it took a little bit of the pace out of our game and was a little bit disruptive. And Wrexham was starting to settle a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that was the case? The fact that because it's an odd time to make those changes when you're so finely balanced. And do you think that it was a case of trying to put some impetus into the game, trying to give it some new energy, and they just couldn't, get up to speed quickly enough? I mean, it's just...
Well, there was a classic moment when Idden and Barker were 2-on-1 on the keeper, and rather than just driving forward and going for the goal, defenders were running behind them. They had lots of time. They could have put the game to bed, and it could have been 3-1. And instead, there was second thoughts about, do I pass? Abby then faltered, and then eventually she shot, but she shot directly at the keeper, where Jenkins had a fairly easy save to make. It's that kind of thing where I feel that if there had been more of a killer instinct and say, let's put this game to bed, I feel that we could have done that. But as the game went on, particularly, there was a fair bit of, I'm not going to say, I want to say time wasting. I mean, again, Jamie, you didn't see it, but I felt that Wrexham were trying to settle a little bit rather than go for the killer blow. And I think Aber could smell this, because they, as I say, Aber were in a very deep block, so Wrexham really had to break them down. Aber's defence was superb. And then basically they would go for long ball on the break and really put our back three under pressure. I mean, we'd made the change at the back with Phoebe Davis coming off. And obviously Leah was on, who's an under 21, and she was up against Morley Hughes. That's a very, very difficult. I mean, she did some fantastic defending, but it was a hard fight for her all the way through. The thing is, 30 seconds to go, I felt Wrexham were maybe a little bit complacent rather than, when they get the ball at the back, rather than put their foot through it and just clear the ball, which you should do with 30 seconds to go, they're trying to play it out from the back, and playing out from the back, they lose the ball. Aberystwyth then put a couple of decent passes in, one long pass to the corner, beats the defender at the back, and Gardner comes in and just puts the ball in the net to equalise. I mean, literally with the last kick of the game. I mean, apparently, according to Matt from Racing Ramble, who was there, the referee had the whistle in his mouth. He was ready to blow. So if Gardner had missed that, the ref would have blown up and Wrexham would have won the game in normal time to 2-1. But I mean,
that's the never say die attitude you got to have, really, and it's disappointing to hear that Wrexham kind of turned sort of that negative at a key point of the game, and I suppose they know that it's a cup game, though, isn't it? That there's a difference about you just don't lose these games, because those league games you can afford to lose and you can draw or whatever. You've always got, you're going to come back again the week after. But cup games, there's so much on it, so you do see clubs behave so differently in a knockout, and the idea of not losing at that point clearly sort of drops into their minds so clearly, and equally Aber know that it's worth keep going. It's worth to keep on fighting to the last whistle. So to hear that was literally the last action of the game in such a dramatic way. I mean, Millie Gardner did such an important it's an important thing to do, is take your chances, and Aber seemed to be doing that when it mattered.
I mean, we don't see stats, unfortunately, but I would guarantee that Aber's stats were kind of, shots on goal, probably 3 or 4, and they put 2 of them in the goal. So, whereas Wrexham, I would think, shots they would have had, in the high teens. Shots on target would have probably been 9 or 10, and we only scored 2. I mean, that's the kind of problem. So, obviously, because it's a cup game, no extra time, goes straight to penalties. Jamie, not sure if you could remember how you thought when you'd heard that, because obviously, like you said, you were out, you'd heard that Wrexham were 2-2 and it was going to penalties. I mean, I felt that Aber were going to win at that point, because Aber absolutely, and rightly so, celebrated scoring that goal right on the death. So they are up. They are absolutely up for this. Where Wrexham, you could feel, were kind of, I don't believe it. We've dropped the ball, and I honestly thought Aber were going to win. I mean, how did you feel?
Well, to be fair, I had 5 minutes of confusion, because I saw that it had gone to penalties, but I hadn't seen anything to suggest that Aber had equalised, so I couldn't work out what was going on. So to be honest with you, I was halfway through the shootout before I went back and found the notification of them scoring with the last kick of the game. As I was following from sort of the second penalties in, the club Twitter feed was quite rapid on posting the outcome of each of the penalties, and as we're getting sort of 3 or 4 in, I agree. I was starting to have a little bit of a feeling of, this just feels like it's not going to be our day here for whatever reason. And do you know what? I don't think anyone would have been too critical if Aber had won, to be honest with you. Yes, statistically we've dominated the game, both games, but I think it almost feels a little bit harsh on them, really, the last two results, given how they performed. I
absolutely felt that way. I felt they deserved more than what they got out of it, because their heart and their effort was superb. I mean, obviously we got to penalties. 9 fantastic penalties. Wrexham scored their first 4 penalties. Idden, Barker, Smith, Lily Jones all hitting the back of the net. I mean, Lily Jones's was superb, and Wrexham have only ever been in one penalty shootout before, and they lost, and Lily was the one who missed the penalty. So the fact that she managed to put the ball in the back of the net was great. Wrexham also scored their 4 fantastic penalties by them as well. So it was getting to sudden death. Scourfield, unfortunately, now I think looking at it, she took a gamble. I think she thought, I'm going to hit it hard as I can and aim for the top left-hand corner, because I feel that's my best chance of getting past the keeper. And she hit it very hard, but she wasn't on target, and it hit the post and bounced out. Because I definitely think if she's got it on target, it's going in, because Lizzie Craven is not stopping it. Which meant that, basically Knox then had the winning penalty, which he duly dispatched. and Wrexham go through. So they either play Cardiff City, Britain Ferry, or TNS on January the 11th. Daz, I want to talk to you quickly about Aberystwyth Town. Obviously, new managers come in the last 6 to 8 weeks. I think they should hold their heads incredibly high after these two performances versus, a team that has been taking apart teams across the board. Plus, Aber still have something to play for. They were only 4 points off the gap, so they still could get into the top 4. Do you think this is going to do them wonders from a point of view of positivity?
Technically it should be, but it's so demoralizing when you think you're that close and that close twice. You've given them a run out in the league, and you think, okay, they're the league, front runners, so that's what you think you've got a shot at it, and you miss out just so narrowly. That's one thing. Then to take them to an absolute, literally to a penalty shootout and run them close again, I don't know what the energy levels that absorbs. I don't know whether or not they've got that sort of robustness in them to be able to go, yeah, we matched them, well done, that means we're invincible, or we can beat anybody else. Or is it a case of what do we got to do to win these kind of games? And, it's very, very fine line. So this is absolutely where management will come in. They've absolutely deserve every bit of credit. It doesn't sound like Wrexham put out, we just analysed it. They didn't put out any sort of second string or anything. They took it seriously. So we're saying that ABBA matched them in so many ways with some, first team players, and arguably because we had to play somebody in goal that if we'd had an outfield position, who knows what would have happened if Amy Jenkins was playing outfield, because she can score goals, she can make the difference. She's so. There might be some if, buts, and maybes going around the camp. I think they've got absolutely everything to be proud about, and being so temptingly close to the split in that sense, they could do it. They could do it. It does need a couple of results as well to go their way, but it's not unsurmountable. And they should be proud, but they're young. They're a young team. They've got a couple of old heads in there, and it just depends if those older players can really make sure that they guide the youngsters, really settle them, and say, proven ourselves. Let's maintain this form and keep going, because they absolutely deserve every credit, because they've achieved more than what any of us, and myself as a local boy, fierce, so proud of it. But I was not predicting that at all. I think when you've got a form team like Wrexham, and you just thought this is going to be a bit more one-sided than that, they've proven us wrong twice.
Yep, absolutely. Jamie, from Wrexham's point of view, that's two squeaks. I know we haven't had players like Nat Clark and Ava Suckley in the team over the last 2 weeks because they're away. But is this good? As in, we've managed to come through 2 very difficult performances and win, or is there going to be a bit of head scratching and looking at what's going on? Because obviously Katie Barker now hasn't scored. In fact, ever since that she went off before the NFA game in the Bute Energy Welsh Cup, she's not scored an open play. She scored 2 penalties, but not in open play, and she struggled again this week, as in to put the ball in the back of the net. There were other players as well where some of the passing looked a bit laboured. It was a bit out. It was a bit, not to feet. I mean, is this positive that we've managed to again put our heads down and get the wins, or should we be concerned and go back to the drawing board a bit?
But for sure, it's positive that we've won both games, because they're 2 very difficult games. I think the only maybe concern's too strong of a word, but I think the first game, the league game last week, you kind of came away from that thinking, well, do you know what? And I think we said it last week. I think in some ways a performance like that might not do them any harm, because it might be a little bit of a kind of a wake up call. But the fact that they've then gone and performed similar, the same, okay, against the same team, but they performed, not great again and struggled again in the week after. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a concern, but it will be interesting to see now, obviously, what happens in the next game. I suppose the only saving grace, because interesting, you were talking there about the way you described it there, and you've seen more of the games than I have, was like as if they maybe getting a bit leggy, a bit maybe struggling with fatigue a little bit. I don't know. So there's a break coming up, isn't there? Now they've got one more game, and then there's a little bit of a break. So that might be a good thing. But I don't think they need to be overly concerned, because they're still in a fantastic position. And fundamentally, the last two games, yes, it's been a struggle, and it's been a lot harder than any of us anticipated. But they still won both the games. So you can't overanalyze it, I don't think.
It's Christmas time, and there's no need to be afraid. But there is a need for some decent opinion on Wrexham's first season back in the Championship, since there were no mobile phones, no internet, and decent music. Remember that in the 80s? Decent music. Who better than our very own Father Christmas? Footballer, manager, pundit, writer, and now we're led to believe bushranger following his recent trip to the savannah. It is, of course, Wrexham legend, Andy Morrell. Hello, Andy.
Hiya, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Let's crack on about Wrexham, because it's been a very exciting season so far. Are Wrexham's current results and position in the table what you expected before the season began?
It's a great question, because I don't really think any of us knew how we were going to fare in this league now. And with the summer transfers, you're thinking, it could be anything, really, and how are they going to gel, because there was so much change. But I think we're about where we are. I think we've certainly settled down after the first 4 or 5 games where we conceded too many goals, too many chances on our goal. We certainly settled down, fell on a bit of a formula with the 3 at the back, a few tweaks in formation, etc. But I think we've been really absolutely blasted it off the park. And I probably look at the whole game away last Wednesday, and just that's probably the one where we didn't really do ourselves any justice in the way that we played. But apart from that one, I think we've been in every game, all games. It's been quite tight, and they could have gone either way. Probably too many draws, but you sort of take that with the momentum and you keep that going. But yeah, I think we're about set where we are, and we're right in amongst it, even though we're 15th or whatever we are. We're still looking up rather than down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot has been talked, hasn't there, about the fact is that Parky's brought in so many players pre-season, and he's had to try and meld those with the existing players who have obviously come up from League One. Which player, old or new, has impressed you the most so far this season?
Yeah, well, I think once we'd made all the signings, I don't think there would have been one Wrexham fan, really, that would have had George Dobson in their 11. I think he would have been in the squad, but not their 11s, because of what he gives you. But I think he's took his opportunity really, really well. I think he's been absolutely magnificent for the 19, 20 games we've had. His energy, his enthusiasm, I think he went up a level with his passing, and I think he really took to it. And I think in the summer, he's probably looked at himself and gone, what do I need? What does the club need from me to make this step up? Because I've been there as well. I've gone from League One to the Championship, and you need a bit extra. And he's worked on that in the summer. He's worked to get fitter. I think his touch has been magnificent. I think his passing ranges has been great. And I think he's really surprised the majority of Wrexham fans of how good he has been. And I think he's in talk for Player of the Year, pre-Christmas. But on the other hand, I look at Dom Hyam and I'm thinking he is real Championship quality. He's been excellent since he's come in. 12, 13 games he's played. We've been excellent defensively. And he was part of the reason why we turned around that early season form where we were conceding too many chances or shots on our goal. For him coming in, since he's come in, we've stopped that, and we've had some really good clean sheets.
It's interesting. There's been a piece in the Evening Leader today or this morning, because obviously we rely so much on wing back play, and we've had quite a bit of a wing back injury crisis at the moment, with Kabore and Kakachi both being out. Parky was talking in an interview with Rich Williams, basically saying he might have to convert a midfielder to a winger position. Sounds easy, is it? No, I think the wing back position is the hardest position to play on
on a football pitch, because one, you need to have abundance of energy to go forward and to come back. You need to be able to defend, but you also need to have real quality in the opposition's final third. So I think that's going to be more difficult than thought. I think at the moment, I think we're a good championship team. We're a mid-table championship team with the team that played on Saturday, for example. But if you put Kabore and you put Kakache in that team, I think we're a very good championship team. I think those two make just a bit of a difference. That's no slight on the wing backs that we have, but I think they have just that little bit extra pace, that little bit extra quality to get us from our defensive shape to an attacking threat quicker. And so they give other teams more problems than the ones we currently have. And these lads are trying to step up as well. And like for Barney, for example, he's come from really National League with us all the way through, and he's not really had a run of games and a chance to get into his flow yet this season, where he has played the last couple of games. I just think those two that we brought in, they do make a real difference to our team.
If you were the manager and you had to try and convert one of our midfielders, who's kind of at top of your list to maybe make an attempt at sticking somebody on the wing?
It's a great question. I suppose you're probably looking at Thomason and O'Brien, or would you? I think O'Brien got the legs, definitely, and that bit of injection of intent and a bit of pace, a bit of guile about his play. Thomason for his energy, he could probably get up and down quite easily, and probably defensively he's probably better than O'Brien. But those would be the two. I can't see them sticking Chief out there or James out there from the middle of the park. I can't see Dobson doing it. So yeah, I'd lean towards those two, but I would still be a bit against having a go at it, really. Do you know what I mean? I would more than happily stick with, I think McLean's done great since he's come back into the team. But 3 games in a week from somebody that's not played a lot of football is really difficult, as we've seen with Barney as well. And Longman can play both sides. You know, I think he's done relatively well this year. I think he's got a real abundance of energy. But again, a lot of games when you'd probably have him as more a sub coming on in the last 15, 20 minutes for Longman rather than a starter regularly. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. But every team's going to have these challenges of an injury crisis in certain positions. And we have got a really deep squad. We've got 5 players for 2 positions. And okay, they might not be really gunning for the top of the championship level, but they are willing and understand our system, which they slip into and they give their all every time they go on the pitch.
Just want to talk about our options at the front. Obviously, Kiefer has been, doing really, really well. 8 league goals, 10 goals across all competitions. But some people are kind of saying, the whole game we only had 1 shot on target. Saturday we only had 3 shots on target. We've got players like Broadhead, we've got players like Sam Smith. We've got players like Ryan Hardy, and yet we don't seem to be able to maybe making some clear-cut chances on goal. Is that just temporary, or is it kind of just everything's just still bedding in up front?
Yeah, I think the Broadhead Windass sort of combination is a really tricky one. It seems to be one or the other at the moment, and I would love to get them both in our team. I think they're both very, very good players and would certainly add value. It's just how would you do that? It would probably be going to the sort of box midfield again, but does that leave you a little bit short defensively for what we need? I think the creation of chances comes from wing backs as well. We just spoke about the wing backs. I think they are so big in the way that we play. We get a lot of crosses in the box, and when you haven't got the real top level quality, your chances and opportunities come down somewhat. But saying that, Kiefer's done brilliantly. Let's not deny. I think he's been excellent, a great signing. Yep. I think if there was if you went into a shop, a Phil Parkinson shop, and there was a person, you're looking at the strikers and you needed to pick one off the shelf, I think Kiefer Moore would be the ideal one, wouldn't he? For to buy it ready-made for the system. It's whether now, does he dare go 2 strikers? Does he dare go and play 2 up front and then play the 3 behind him and see how that goes, rather than the one off that is suited so well for certainly the back end of last season with Rodriguez and Smith, and this season with Windass or Broadhead off more. Does he go to 2 strikers and then try and get maybe a 10 in to try and be a bit more creative with chances that maybe a striker can feed off more, a little bit more than a Windass does, if that makes sense. But it's tricky because you don't want to go for it and leave yourself a little bit exposed. So this is the balance that, and I think it's fair enough the way he's gone about it, because Phil Parkinson is a little bit more reserved in the way that he does go about things. He's a bit more pragmatic. He goes, right, let's not concede and we might be able to nick one. We're always in games. He's not really an offensive, let's go for it and we'll outscore you type of manager. And he had never been that. We've just had really good players. But I think there are a few tweaks that possibly could be made to try and improve that shots created, chances created, if you like, at the other end of the pitch.
We saw on Saturday the return of Ollie Rathbone, and boy, did he make a massive change. 2 minutes, scores the goal that gets us back to a draw. Can you see him, now he's back from his injury, making a serious impact for the rest of the season?
Yes, again, it's a good question. Great to see his smile again, wasn't it? And it's so infectious. People spoke about Ollie last year being like the focal point in the changing rooms, on and off the pitch, how bubbly, how much of a character he was around the changing rooms and everything. And if you listen to his interviews after the game on Saturday, he talks about the frustrations of feeling a bit part and like on the outside of it and seeing it. And that's really hard for somebody of his character to still be that type of person around the place when you're not affecting and you're not helping the team at all. He'll be delighted to score. He'll be delighted to get a couple of minutes. Hopefully that kicks him on. He says he's been training really well for a couple of weeks. I don't see why you wouldn't give him a few goes, especially over this busy Christmas period. He'll certainly get minutes, I would have thought. And then it's up to him to get in the team. But you've got O'Brien one in the same spot. You've got Thomason one in the same spot. Sheave, James, Dobson. You've got 7 midfielders for those 3 spots. And you can't play them all. But he needs to get the ones that are playing the best in the team. And if it's Ollie Rathbone with a bit of confidence and a bit of zest about his play and a real determination, throw him in, see what happens. He does add a little bit of a goal threat, very similar to Lewis O'Brien, and Lewis O'Brien, unfortunately, is just not taking the chances that have come his way this season, really. He could be on 8-9 goals already this year. The chances he's had. Maybe Ollie does get in the similar... Maybe Ollie does get into the same situations, and maybe he has got a little bit more composure. But it was great to see him score on the weekend, and hopefully there's a few more to come. Yeah, especially over this Christmas period.
Definitely. Before the season began, there were a few critics, in my opinion, uninformed critics, who said that they questioned Phil Parkinson's experience at the championship level, which I think is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my life. Do you think that Phil's now answered these critics in the perfect way by saying, well, there you go, just look at the results?
Yeah, I think you look at the results, you look at the way that he's changed the whole team virtually. He's got a brand new team with a similar culture that's got us so far in the last 3 seasons. And I just think you have to look elsewhere in the league and see the managers that have been and gone already, that are maybe a newer type, a more up-to-date and more passing philosophies and all this. Doesn't necessarily win your football matches. And at the end of the day, that's what Phil Parkinson's in the business for. And that's what we want, is to win football matches. The football that Phil plays isn't Pep Guardiola. It's never been. It hasn't been. But what it is, it's effective. It does the job. It wins football matches. And that's what he is been brought in to do. He's done it in abundance for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Now he's always had the best players or a level above for the divisions that we've gone up. Now we are championship players in a championship league, so it's even harder. And I think Phil finding his feet as well. People go back to his record in the championship with the teams that he's had not being great. But you look at those teams, they've just been a shadow of a championship team, really. They've had financial troubles behind them. They've not been able to bring players in when they've got up. So there's a lot of other factors in the team's reasoning why he's not had the success in the championship that maybe he wanted. But he's got that now at Wrexham, and I think he fully deserves the opportunity to have a go at it. And we were conceding too many shots at the start of the season. He's addressed that. We aren't scoring enough goals. I'm sure he'll be looking to address that. He's got 2 of his better players in the wing-backs not fit and out the team, which make a big... Wing-backs are so important in his formation. So these factors have to be taken into account. And I think mid-table, with a view to looking up at Christmas, I think the majority of Wrexham fans would have taken that at the start of the season.
Definitely. You've seen most of the Wrexham games, obviously, so far this season, barring a few while you were on holiday. I mean, which performance has impressed you the most?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I really enjoyed the Norwich away game. I thought we were good in that game. I thought Kabore was insanely good in that game. I thought it was a change of formation, a little tweak to the system. I thought the players really adapted to it well. I think they really, really went for it as well. And away from home, we let the shackles off a little bit, which is unlike us. We're normally very, very rigid in our low block, etc. But we were a little bit freer, and our counter-attacking was really, really good that day. And we scored 3 goals. I thought second half we were brilliant. And we really took the game to Norwich. I know they were struggling at home, but you've still got to put them away. And I thought we did that. And that was one of the games that I thought I really enjoyed.
So looking forward, obviously we're going to get Christmas and New Year out of the way, but then obviously it'll be the January window, which is a kind of a key time for all clubs in the Championship. I mean, what business are you assuming Wrexham are going to do, if any?
I don't think there'll be huge, massive ins and outs. I think a few will go out. I think you're looking at. I was speaking to Jay Rodriguez on Saturday. He's back on the grass. He's back training. They're hoping for a reserve game, I think, somewhere over Christmas. But that's great news. Same as Andy Cannon. They're hoping to be involved in that game. But players like that who haven't had any football for 6 months, it's going to be very difficult for you to just drop them into your first team and get them playing straight away. So whether they do go and have some minutes somewhere else, maybe a loan or whatever, especially Cannon, who's been out for a long time, they might decide to play some football rather than sticking around and having a bit part to play. I think the main one would be to try and get somebody in that is a similar type to Kiefer Moore. I think he needs a bit of a hand with all the minutes that he's playing, and he is so important to the way we do play that any slight niggle or any long-term injury to him and we could have some sort of problem. So I would expect them to do some sort of business with that type. And then maybe we're looking at the injuries to the wing-backs, etc., and when Kabore might be back after the AFCON, etc., and Kakache's in and out, he's struggling. I think they've just left him for like 6 to 8 weeks to say, like, listen, we're not playing you till Christmas. Get yourself right. But maybe one either side to that might just inject something new to our attacking threats as well as our group. So I don't expect 1 or 2, but maybe a few might go out.
We're assuming, I'm assuming, I think that's just the positivity of a Wrexham fan with me, but I'm assuming now Wrexham are fairly safe from being relegated. I mean, I know it's only 9 points, but we're in a good position coming to Christmas. Far better than I expected us to be, Yeah, far expected. Yeah. But I'm going to say it. I'll put my neck on the line. That's fine. I mean, would you expect Wrexham to take a run at the playoffs, or kind of do you feel that they're going to just let's just settle and just get things firmed up a bit rather than just go crazy and try and reach for something that might be too far?
No, I think that's the aim still. I think you've got to have that aim because the division's so tight. I think the really key bit is we need a back-to-back win at some point, because that can just change your season. If we get a couple of back-to-back wins in over Christmas, for example, you're coming out into January right in amongst it, right in the mix. But we just haven't been able to do that yet. We've gone win, draw, which is fine because we didn't even expect that, I don't think. But what we didn't do is go win. And you've seen Sheffield United, for example, on 3 points have gone straight into mid-table after winning 4 on the spin. So that can be huge. I think that's our first port of call, is can we get 2 decent back-to-back victories, which will really change the season. I think they'll definitely be looking up at those playoffs and going, we can have a run at this. But I don't think they will go all guns blazing 5 up front, and change his philosophy and his formations for the rest of the season. Because I think at the start of the season, we'd have all taken 12th to 10th as a quite happy medium in there, and a consolidation season and a whole new squad. I think that's a brilliant season for us. And we've also got a great FA Cup tie to look forward to as well.
Oh yeah, I mean that's very exciting. Getting Nottingham Forest at home. I mean, shame about the 5 up front. I'd love that as a Christmas present. I think that'd be great. But I know that would be really stupid. I mean, obviously there is a danger, isn't it? Because we've seen Charlton recently, 5 losses, 1 draw. They have absolutely tumbled. So it can go horrendously wrong, can't it?
And that's why I can't see Phil Parkinson changing from this philosophy of we are in all the games. We are going to sit in. If we need to, we defend deep. They can have the ball in their own half and we will be a really tough team to break down. And then if we have our wing backs flying and our centre mid getting up with more and we play off him and we get a nick a goal or 2 away in real counter-attacking games, I think that structure has served him so well over the past few years that I don't think he'll swerve from that too far. To be fair to him, he chucked on a load of strikers and a mid-volley on Saturday because he needed to get back in the game. I think that was brave to go with a couple of strikers and both Broadhead and Windass. I'd love to see them a bit more. It's just how you work that. But I think we're getting there. And as we more settle our feet and understand this division, I think he will maybe go to that at some point, especially if we are a little bit safer and we are looking up. He might go to that and try a few things with a view to looking at how it might evolve for next season.
Just want to jump to Wrexham Women very, very quickly. I mean, Jenny's come in and made a massive difference with not just bringing in the new players, because obviously that was made a difference, but also a lot of the players from the last few seasons have lifted their game. And obviously now top of the table, still in both the cups, unbeaten bar 1 game all season in all competitions. It's quite impressive, isn't it, for a turnaround for Wrexham Women to reach those levels?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they've had a bit of injection of money in there and brought some really good, high-quality people for the level in. Some players that were out from Newcastle, they've been brought in and are really making a big difference to the team. And what they do is they raise the standards. And so you can quite easily get left behind, but it looks like the other girls that are there, they've really taken to it. The better players have raised the standard. They're looking to raise their standards and they've just lifted the whole group to a whole new level. I'm delighted for them. They're really pushing. Hopefully they can continue it through to the end of the season. But a remarkable, 3 or 4 years, not just for the men's team, but for the women's team and how they've turned around. Great to have them back at the Rock for their home games as well. Bit of money put in there and invested in there. So, yeah, it just seems that the whole football club on both sides is really rolling in, still in the right direction. It's very difficult. Once you get this momentum, you don't want that ball to stop rolling and you just want to keep pushing it. It might have slowed down a little bit for the men's because, promotion, it's impossible to do it. But just keep it moving forwards. And that seems to be the mantra really at the football club. And it's just certainly doing that. And also it looks like the academy, they've got a few new faces in there, Gus heading up and everything. Some really good people that know the area, know the football club from past years and have come back and they can really step on and take it forward as well. So it's all looking very, very bright for a really good future. Gus took me for my A license and was around it for my A license. So I know him and there's a few around. Craig as well, who's just come in recently for the 18s, I think it is. They're just good people and they know the area, they know the people, they know what this club is about from when, even before my time at the football club. So there's a history and I like that. I like how they've brought in people that understand what the football club's all about, especially for the kids, because they can pass on the knowledge of what it was, what it is now, and what it takes to get into the one of the fastest growing football clubs out there, really.
Last question, Andy. Let's go back in time. Prime Mozza, Wrexham, Blackpool, Coventry Mozza. You obviously had a fantastic relationship while you were at Wrexham with Lee Trundle, alongside Lee Trundle. Which current Wrexham player would you want to play alongside? You'd be excited to play alongside with?
Oh, blimey. I'd have played with any of them. I have to say that I'd have loved to have played with any of them. I think Kiefer would. I think you'd have to. If it was me, I would have to be looking to adapt my game around what I have as a teammate. So when I played with Truns, for example, I was the legs around him. He would just stand in the middle. He'd get the ball, and I would run around him and go off movement and space that he's created. A bit like I'd play with Kiefer Moore, for example. But if I had a quicker one with me, I had Keegan Parker at Blackpool. I had maybe a Lee Jones, for example, at Wrexham. They would be the runners. So I would have to adapt my game and change my game a little bit and be the one that was maybe the flick-ons, maybe holding it up a little bit more. And so, I would love to play with Sam Smith. I'd love, because of his energy. I'd love to play with Kiefer because of what he brings to the team. Hardy seems like he's got good movement. He just needs a goal for us, really. So any of them I'd take. I'd just love to be playing in this team because I think it's got... I look back at the 2002-3 team with Carlos on that, and I liken him to Kabore, Kakache and Eddie on the left-hand side. You've got Sheaf in the middle and James, who were very Darren Ferguson-esque. So there's a lot of similarities for me to the team that got promoted in 2002-03.
So obviously, Swansea tonight, when this pod goes out. Will you see Trans?
I hope so. I'll message him. I'm possibly on a podcast with him tomorrow just for 10 minutes to just preview it. But I'm hopeful that I might be able to catch him for a drink after the game. He's got his LT10 bar, hasn't he, or something down there, or his hospitality. So I'm hoping maybe he might have set aside a meal for me or something. We'll see. But I'll hopefully catch up with him, yeah.
Well, great. I mean, it was great to see that as well. The pictures of you and Carlos at the game recently, which was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's like getting all the band back together, isn't it? It's for Wrexham fan, it's a dream from that point of view. Andy, thanks very much for your time. Obviously, all of us are really enjoying time on Co-comms and Matchday Live. Great that you got mugged by Rob and Ryan on Saturday. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. That was mad. It was a bit chaotic, and but hey, you take what you can, and they've been brilliant, haven't they? They do. I've watched Phil Parkinson's interview. They lift the place, don't they? When they're here, the whole place is a completely different place when they're here, and it was great. We had Dennis Lawrence on at half time as well, which was really good to catch up with him briefly and see him. So if you need to have a look at it, go and check out the YouTube.
Well, thanks very much, Andy. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope everything's okay, and we'll catch up with you in the new year.
Absolutely, thanks a lot.
Well, it is Christmas, and obviously I am known for my generosity and my ability to eat lots of cakes, which I'm not going to do online, obviously. But with the fact that it is Christmas, of course, it is time for me to ask the boys to give me their changes in the pre-season predictions that they made in August. So they are allowed to make a couple of changes. He's shaking his head. I don't know what he's shaking his head
I'm
for.
shaking my head because it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what I say or what I do. I do not understand the fucking rules of this game.
I just think it's conveniently the person who's going to benefit out of this is the person who made up the rules.
Yes,
so I mean, I'm just call me skeptic.
Suck it up, sisters. Suck it up, sisters. I don't make. Look, I can't predict what the teams are going to do.
You did make up the rules. You did
I did make up the rules. Yeah, I was going to say I don't make up the rules, but I do. So that's obviously that's not true. But let me remind you of those rules, shall I? Okay, so for both the men's and the women's selections, we've obviously all said who we'd like to be in certain positions come the end of the season in both the EFL Championship and the Gennaro Adrian Premier. In both those selections, we can call who's in the Championship. We can call who's going to be first, second, who's going to be in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and who's going to win from the playoffs, and who's going to be in 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And for a bonus point, where are Wrexham going to finish in the Gennaro Adrian Premier? Who's first? Who's second? Who's in the relegation 8th, and where are Wrexham going to be in that position? So, as a Christmas present, as I always do each year, I allow the boys to be able to change one of their choices, one from the Championship and one from the Gennaro.
You see, but even this is dog shit, because if it was a present and if you were doing something like a proper present, then you'd allow one proper change regardless of it. But then
it is a change. I'm allowing you to take one team out and put another one in.
Yeah, but one that you all haven't already predicted, you said?
Absolutely, because
So for me, I would have absolutely nailed on, swapped my prediction and put Sheffield Wednesday bottom, but I can't do that because I've already got them predicted. You said to me.
Not my fault. Daz and I managed it. Daz and I said that Sheffield Wednesday were going to be last. So we did it. So, it's not my fault you're rubbish. Anyway, so as I said, you can replace one team directly for another not named previously in your predictions, but you can't swap any teams you've already named in your August selection round. Obviously, when it comes to the end of the season, we predict all those. If you get a correct team in the correct place, you get 2 points. If you get a team in first to second, fourth to third to sixth, or 22nd to 24th in the wrong place, but in those zones you get a point. You predict the correct playoff winner, you get a point. You get Wrexham in the correct position, you get a point. If you get all those absolutely perfectly right, all of them, that's 1 million points bonus. That's how hard it is to do that. More controversial, this is what they're whinging about basically, is because if you do it in the Genero Adrian Premier, so you predict first, second, eighth, and where Wrexham will finish, and you get them all correct, you'll get 2 points for each of those, and you'll get 4 bonus points. And at the moment, I'm looking pretty good, particularly with the changes I'm about to announce. So let's look at the Genero Adrian first, when you two stop bitching. So, Jamie, you have decided to remove remove Cardiff City from the top and put Wrexham in its place. Why have you done that?
Because there's not much else I could have done.
You could have changed Aberystwyth Town for Pontypridd United, like Daz and I are. That would have got you a guaranteed points, I would say.
To be honest with you, by the time we got to this point of the conversation in the messages, I checked out. I don't have a clue what's going on. I was full on monkey banging the drum in Homer's head territory. Not a clue.
Excellent. Well, Daz, you've dropped out Swansea from second. You put Wrexham in, which you were not happy about either.
Well, no, because you know we know that it would have been nice to have it the other way around, but I'm not allowed to move Cardiff. I can only swap out one. So
what happens if Cardiff do win the league? You're probably going to get the bonus points.
Well, I know
Cardiff comes first. Wrexham are probably going to come second. Ponty are definitely going to come eighth, and Wrexham will be second. You will get the lot.
Only if Wrexham slip up. So you're now asking me, or now I'm beginning to go, I hope Wrexham lose a few more games throughout the year, which is hardly the spirit of this podcast. So I feel you put me in a really tough position here.
They're just annoyed because they were all laughing at me in the beginning of the season because I said Swansea were going to win the league, whereas they both predicted Cardiff. And now this has come to my bonus because I can get rid of Swansea from the top. I can put Wrexham
because you were so wrong. Because you were so wrong. So you're getting the benefit because you were really wrong.
That's what this is. Basically, if you're wrong at the beginning, this gives you a chance to become right. You're getting rewarded for the fact is that you can, change things around. Suck it up, ladies. Let's look at your championship predictions, shall we?
Bullshit.
So Jamie has basically decided to drop Ipswich Town from the top and put Coventry City in. I mean, Coventry City, Jamie, at the moment are doing fairly well. I mean, at one point they were 10 points in the lead, although they have dropped some points since then. I mean, do you think that's a kind of a wise decision to basically put Coventry in that first position for the end of the season?
It's one of them. I mean, the change I wanted to make was put Sheffield Wednesday down the bottom because that's a given, isn't it? But I think at the moment, Coventry look the most likely to win the league. but that having said that, it's as we keep talking about, it's such a congested league. Who knows? I'm certainly not going to say for sure they're going to win it. Like I said, I didn't have a clue what was going on, so I just kind of went with that.
Daz banked on Sheffield Wednesday coming bottom, which again looks highly likely by basically Oxford United now.
But I had Oxford United, and I think Oxford United are going to be in, second from bottom. It's funny how that sort of suits certain people in this game, isn't it? Really?
Wow.
Mind you, I really
don't want me to come ahead of you in this league, do you?
No. You always were a shithouse when it came to playing games, but now you're really outdoing yourself with this thing.
I don't mind it as long as I feel it was a fair, even
this
challenge.
Is fair. These have always been the rules. They've been the rules for the last 3 years.
Mind you, I don't know who Preston North End is, so I should have had a chance to swap them for a genuine team. But also, I couldn't have been more wrong about Preston. So
absolutely, I mean, that's the thing. There are a number of surprises in there. I mean, I've basically dropped Blackburn Rovers out of the playoff zone. I put Millwall in. I mean, I didn't have Millwall anywhere near any of this. I had Millwall in my list closer to the bottom three. So the fact you look at them at the moment, Millwall actually, I think, they're in third. So they're doing incredibly well. And yet Birmingham, obviously, Coventry, obviously, are top. Sheffield United, I think, might come good. So I think for all three of us who have predicted Sheffield United in the playoffs, I think there's a good chance that they might get there because, as we'll talk about in a second, they are on a bit of a resurgence at the moment. But yeah, so there you go. That's your changes for Christmas. Happy Christmas, you pair of miserable bastards. And just wait. When all these things happen and I lose again, which is bound to happen, you two will be silent. You won't be moaning a bit because you'll be like, you feel that justice has been done. Well, you know what? You'll get your wish.
I can categorically tell you right now, I won't be silent.
Very good. Very good. Well, we've battered the tinsel and I've put the tree up myself, so I'll have to go to A&E afterwards to get it out. So it must be time for the Christmas chip shop. Jamie and Daz back behind the counter. It must be Christmas. Woohoo! They've wrapped up more nonsense for Christmas. Let's look, shall we, at last week's predictions. Daz really was the only kind of winner from last week, because he managed to say that Wrexham and Watford would draw. Jamie and I were hopeful that Wrexham would win, and we got it completely wrong. So Daz managed to get a point for that. And the Wrexham Women game, we all lost because we all predicted a Wrexham Women's win. However, it was a draw at full time. None of us predicted that Wrexham would win on penalties. So unfortunately, no points for any of us on that one. Nobody wins on that.
Are you sure you haven't got a bonus point because it went to penalties? And there's clause 3.5xb. It says that if the women's game goes to penalties,
if you want,
you get a bonus point.
If you carry on, I'll put in a rule that says anybody called Jamie is going to lose 100 points. So shut the F up. But Daz did manage to get a point, which brings him a bit closer to Jamie. He's now 5 points behind Jamie and 3 points ahead of me on the bottom, which makes things a bit more interesting as we move towards the Christmas. So with Christmas in mind, let's go to the Friar first tonight, a match I am particularly looking forward to. First is the Friar. It's Swansea City. So Friday, 19th of December at the Swansea.com Stadium, kickoff 8 p.m. GMT versus Swansea City. The only one of the four Welsh clubs we haven't met so far being back in the EFL, Swansea and Wrexham have a long and competitive history. Situated on the in South Wales, Swansea are one of the original 6 exiles that have played their games in the English system rather than move to the Welsh leagues when they were set up in the early 90s. The others, of course, being Wrexham, Cardiff City, Newport County, Merthyr Tydfil, who are currently in the National League North, and Colwyn Bay, who had to play their home games at Northwich and Ellesmere Port in the Northern Premier Division and the Conference before opting to rejoin the Welsh Leagues in 2019. Except for a moment in the sun in the early 80s, Swansea were primarily a Tier 3, Tier 4 club until 2009 when they finally broke into Tier 2, and then in 2012 made it to the Premiership and won the EFL League Cup in 2013, which got them into the Europa League. They lasted in the Premiership until 2018 before being relegated to the Championship, where they've remained ever since. In 2016, they were brought by an American consortium who currently have control of the club. This year, they have brought in some high-profile investors, such as Luka Modric and Snoop Dogg. Last year, Swansea finished 11th in the Championship with 17 wins, 10 draws, 19 losses, a goal difference of -5 and 61 points. In the summer, they spent £15.5 million on centre forward Adam Adaya from Celtic for £6 million, left winger Zidane Inusa from Hacken for £5.5 million, and central midfielder Marko Stemic from Nottingham Forest for £1.5 million. Swansea have had a stuttering start to the season, forcing them to sack their manager in November and appoint Vitor Matos. They are currently 19th in the table with 6 wins, 5 draws, 10 losses, a goal difference of -7 and 23 points, 4 points from relegation. The last 5 results: a 2-1 loss at home to Derby, a 3-2 loss away at West Brom, a 2-0 win at home to Oxford United, a 1-0 win at home to Portsmouth, and a 2-1 loss away at Stoke City. Wrexham and Swansea have met 63 times in the history. Wrexham have won 26, drawn 16 and lost 21. Our last meeting in the league was on St David's Day, March the 1st, 2003 at the Old Vetch. What a ground that was. And that game finished 0-0. And the chips are done. So, Daz, this for me is a little bit of the blast from the past because we've both been to the Vetch, not just to watch Wrexham, but to watch other games. I used to love the Vetch because the away end, you were in a cage, which was great because you really felt like you were under the gun. The Swansea.com is a bit more dignified, to say the least. I'll be there on Friday, which I'm really looking forward to. But this is again, I'm not going to use the D word because we're 140 miles apart between Wrexham and Swansea, so you can't call it a derby. It's two top Welsh sides battling it out to see who is the best team in Wales.
Yeah, it's more national pride than derby. Sort of.
It's South v North, if anything else. It's regional. It's South v North stuff.
Yes, and us Central Mid Wales are, cheering on both equally because I know lots of people from Swansea. But I it is good to have this game played again. I think it would have been nice to have Cardiff in the mix and have a proper three-way battle on it. Unfortunately, Cardiff didn't sort of fulfill their side of the agreement and got themselves relegated annoyingly, but hopefully their form is at the moment suggesting that they'll be back next year, so which should be great because I just think it's good for Welsh football, and this is what this game's all about. I think it's really good for the Welsh football game. I think you've got a good number of the Welsh squad in both camps as well, so it's something familiar about it, and yet we haven't seen it in a long time, so it's good to be back.
Jamie, so it's a weird one, isn't it? Because Swansea, they have been very, very poor. They sacked their manager literally only a few weeks ago. They had the manager bounce where they won 2 games. They lost last week at Stoke. We have kind of become the draw kings, 11 draws now out of all our games played in the league. Obviously, when they busted that streak, as I said earlier, away from home, we have a tendency to be a little bit defensive. But there's going to be the added platform, isn't it, about it's Swansea that we're playing. So there's going to be a lot of fans who will say the win is everything. The performance is nothing. The win is everything.
Yeah, it's in a similar vein to the Cardiff game in the Carabao Cup. It's neither set of fans want to lose this one, do they? They won't want to lose it because they won't want us coming along as like the relative new kids on the block and putting one on them in their own backyard. Likewise, we certainly won't want to come away from there with our tail between our legs either. You're probably going to pelt me for this, but I've got a really bad feeling about this. I got a really bad feeling about this game. I hope I'm wrong, but I just got a bad feeling.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're positive. Right.
Sorry,
so
I'm just being honest.
No, absolutely. No, that's no. Yeah. Do you know what? There's a nagging.
I tell you what. I'll be like Sherman Club. We're gonna win. Yeah.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Jamie, with all that positivity, what's your score prediction for Swansea City versus Wrexham?
2-1 Swansea win.
Ooh. Daz, what's your score prediction for Swansea City versus Wrexham?
I mean, I'm normally the one that's a little bit more pragmatic about these situations, but I've only gone for a 1-1 draw.
Okay. And I'm predicting Swansea City 1, Wrexham 2. Look into my eye, right? I warned you when we played Cardiff and you let me down. Don't let me down again. We can't lose to Swansea. Full stop. Don't care how you do it. Don't care. You must win under all circumstances. I am not going to bet against Wrexham where Swansea are concerned because I'm surrounded by the buggers up here in the valleys and it does my tree in. So 2-1 to Wrexham. Make it happen and we can walk away as the best team in Wales.
Can you move back from the camera, please? Because I feel like I'm watching Leslie Grantham here.
Is it a so that's a great reference that only the people in the UK will get, which is brilliant. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer, it's Penybont Women. Sunday the 21st of December at the Rock, kick-off 2 p.m. GMT. Wrexham Women play Penybont Women. The Bute Energy Welsh Cup quarter-finals, and Wrexham play the Gennaro Adran South team, Penybont at home. Penybont Women FC are from Bridgend on the South Wales coast, which is a town between Cardiff and Swansea. They are currently 5th in the Gennaro Adran South, and in round 1 of this competition, Penybont beat Barry Town United on penalties after a 0-0 draw, while Wrexham, of course, beat NFA FC 11-0. And these two teams have never met face-to-face before. And the chips are done. So, Daz, as we said earlier, in round 1, Wrexham, met NFA FC away, beat them 11-0. Fair dues to Penybont to take on Barry Town 0-0 and then beat them on penalties. But that's a kind of a 0-0 on penalties, not a 11-0 win. Penybont obviously are in that level below. Are you expecting anything really but a fairly decent win over Wrexham? Or is the results versus Aberystwyth going to weigh on their mind a bit?
No. There's another. I nearly said something again, predictably. There's a league apart between these two teams. And the gulf is big. We've seen teams like Pontypridd go down and come back up, or Cardiff Met go down. Now Penybont play in the same league as Cardiff Met, and I think Cardiff Met beat them 4-2, 5-2, something like that. Anyway, a decent result. And Cardiff Met are flying high in that league and are pretty much odds on to be in the playoff to get back. Of course, they don't automatically get through. So I'm using Cardiff Met as my benchmark. And 6 games played, Penybont are only a few points behind them, but still, they've had enough decent results. But Penybont are doing okay. They're playing, they play against teams like Llanelli and Carmarthen, who, that's their level. It's a trickier games. I think then the step up then to the Premier is huge. So it has to be a straightforward win, especially if you're playing at the Rock, the all new fantastic looking Rock.
I was there 2 weeks ago. It smells of fresh paint and carpet glue. It's very, very new and shiny. And I had a nice conversation with Mark Swales, the head of women's and girls football there now, and very positive. Great.
I'm hoping the carpet glue wasn't in the toilets or behind the back of the main stand. No. It was just
you'd have thought the Queen was going to visit, because everywhere smelled of gloss paint. It was very noticeable, and but it's great.
I hope the Queen's not coming to visit.
Can you imagine that? Jamie, I'm going to ask the age-old question, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to ask it. For Wrexham, what's going to be more important here, the performance or the result?
Well, the result, it's a cup game, isn't it? So, the result is always the most important thing. But I think given the level of the opposition, exactly like you guys just said, the gulf between them is pretty big. And given the fact we've had 2 below par performances in the last 2 games, I think they'll very much want to put a performance in as well. But yeah, 100%, the result is the most important thing, and certainly in the cup games.
Because obviously next Cardiff, so Wrexham will play this, then they'll have their Christmas break. The next game they'll play will be against Cardiff in that televised game, and Cardiff absolutely smashed Swansea in the Gennaro Trophy 6-0 while we were struggling against Aberystwyth. So they are up for it. They're going to be up for it. So it'll be interesting to see.
I said to you last week, didn't I, when we were talking about that game, and I said in a weird way their last league game getting called off, I think plays more into their hands than ours, because I think they'll know that they can't afford to lose that game. And now, like you say, going into it on the back of a thrashing Swansea in the cup, and I'm sure whoever they're playing this weekend, they'll probably give a hiding to. So, yeah.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce core. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Penybont Women?
It's hard to know if they're going to rest some of the Wrexham players, though. That's the thing. Just because they're going to win. They're going to win. It's absolutely no way this team should be, even if they park all the buses brought all the players on an individual bus each, and then they all individually parked each of their buses in front of the goal.
That's a busy pitch. That's a busy
I
pitch.
still think Wrexham will score. So I'm edging towards 6-0 in favour of Wrexham, obviously.
Excellent. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Penybont Women?
8-0 to Wrexham.
Wowzers. I'm going to be more conservative. I'm going to say Wrexham Women 4, Penybont Women 0. I don't think we're going to be. I think of recent weeks, I just think we're struggling a little bit, and I don't think it's going to be that absolute rollover that we think. But hopefully I'm wrong. I'll take the win, whatever happens, because it'll be good to move into the next round, and move on and have a nice break over Christmas. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer tonight, it's Sheffield United. So after everyone has gobbled the turkey and hoovered up the chocolates, Boxing Day sees Wrexham welcoming the last team to meet in the Championship for the first time this season, Sheffield United. Wrexham have had dealings, of course, with Sheffield United fairly recently, as in 2023, Wrexham nearly knocked them out of round 4 of the FA Cup, where it took a replay to finally escape us. Lucky boys. Last season, Sheffield United finished 3rd on a staggering 90 points, but because Leeds and who were the other team that went up? Leeds and Burnley, that was it. Leeds and Burnley had 100 points. Unfortunately, 3rd had to be good enough. They beat Bristol City comfortably in the semi-final 6-0, but lost to Sunderland at Wembley with pretty much the last kick of the game 2-1. Surprisingly, manager Chris Wilder was then sacked and Ruben Sellers was appointed as Sheffield United's manager. In the summer, they bought centre-back Yafet Tanganga from Millwall for £6.4 million and centre-back Niels Zatterstrom from Malmo for £2.9 million. They also got Danny Ings from West Ham and Ben Mee from Brentford on free transfers, and got Louis Barry on loan from Aston Villa, as well as Patrick Bamford from Leeds as a free agent. They also sold £23 million of the players, including, of course, a certain Kiefer Moore to Wrexham for £2 million. Sheffield United have had a terrible start to season, sitting in the relegation zone for most of the first few weeks, which meant that by September, bye-bye Ruben, and hello again Chris Wilder, as he returned to manage the side from what he described as an extended holiday, which I found quite hilarious. Since then, they've had a bit of a resurgence. They're currently in 18th with 7 wins, 2 draws, 12 losses, goal difference of -6 and 23 points, 4 points from relegation. Their last 5 results: a 3-0 win at home to Portsmouth, a 3-2 win away at Leicester City, a 4-0 win at home to Stoke City, a 1-1 draw at home to Norwich, and a 2-0 loss away at West Brom. And the chips are done. Jamie, this is one of these unfortunate ones where I'm thinking, if we'd have met you in August, we'd have smashed you because you were absolute dog poo. But unfortunately, since Chris Wilder's come back in, they've got their mojo back. I mean, you look at some of those results: 4-0 at Stoke against Stoke. That's impressive because we played Stoke and they were fairly robust. But then they lose last week to West Brom. And what kind of a game are you expecting a Boxing Day at home in the Stoke Carras?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because Sheffield United are such a weird team this season. I mean, they none of us thought they were going to be in the position that they are in. When he took over, they didn't really kind of go on a surge like I think many thought that they would. They still struggled for a good few weeks, but then they went on a bit of a run. But then stuttered a little bit again in recent weeks, or last couple of games in particular. Like you say, beat Stoke 4-0, but then drew at home to Norwich and then lost to West Brom. So I don't know, but I think what is undeniable is they're full of quality players, aren't they? They've got a fantastic squad of players, a fantastic first 11, and ultimately, if they turn up and play, they will be a difficult team to beat. However, I think even though the whole FA Cup needle really is a complete thing of the past, there are so many differences now. Different manager. They've got a different manager because it was in Higginbottom, wasn't it, when we beat them when we played them in the cup. That little prick doesn't play from what was his name? Billy Sharp. He's doing something else now. We're in the same league as them now. We've got a completely different set of players. So I can't really see there being any kind of hangover to that from a couple of seasons ago. But I fully expect them to be a very difficult side to beat. I think that the challenge for us is how do we approach the game? Do we do our usual thing of kind of sitting back and trying to see if we can absorb the pressure and then get a goal, or do we go at them? I'll probably answer my own question, but this is very much one of those games where I would like to see us have a go. We're at home. It's a festive game. The crowd will be up for it because obviously it's an evening kickoff, so everyone will be kind of married up on beer and turkey. So I think the crowd will be up for it. So yeah, I hope it's a good game. And bizarrely, and it's a crazy thing to say when you think about it, because obviously we've got the Swansea game to play before that. No idea what's going to happen in that. And as much as I've got a bad feeling about the Swansea game, I'm quite optimistic for this one.
Weird. Daz, Boxing Day games are always great. I love a Boxing Day game because it's kind of, you've had the Christmas Day where you've eaten yourself pretty much to death and you need to get in the fresh air and you can get back some football, which is brilliant. I was quite shocked when Chris Wilder was fired in the summer, because he'd done brilliantly with Sheffield United. He really had, and it was quite a shock for me. And they gambled on Ruben Sellers and that lost. They're starting to get back into it. I mean, Sheffield United, as Jamie just said, they have pedigree, they have players, and now they have the manager who took them successfully to third and almost got them to the Premiership. They're going to be tough to beat, aren't they? Yeah.
I mean, any team can have a bit of a blip, and West Brom was their blip, maybe. I mean, I can't. There's nothing to suggest that they can't then return to another sort of run of form. But to have started from literally gave everybody a head start. And now that they're beginning to put some sort of form together, they're easily the most impressive team in the bottom half of the table. So this is going to be. I think you can't read into their league position as a guide on this one, because they literally just give everybody a lap head start and go, right, you carry on, and then we'll start running at some point. Clearly. Bringing in Chris Wilder is just the magic potion that they needed. It seemed daft getting rid of him. I don't know what owners and investors think they're going to get sometimes with bringing in big names. It's like Martin O'Neill at Celtic. Comes in, steadies the ship. 7 out of 8 games, there's a win. New guy comes in, literally hasn't won a game yet. It's like
mad, isn't it? They're basically gambling, aren't they? They're pulling the handle on the slot machine and hoping they're going to come up with 3 bars, and what they come up with is bugger all. Yeah. I mean,
I appreciate that managers bring in their own sort of style and their sort of their formations, and Man U's a good example of that. If he can ride out the storm, he's suddenly now got a few results, and yes, I get it.
That must hurt. That must hurt you saying that, does. That must hurt.
Yeah, well,
if it's any consolation, they're drawing 4-4 with Bournemouth at the minute.
Good Lord, 4-4.
Yeah, they were 2-1 up at half time, and then Bournemouth scored 2 goals at the start of the second half, and then United got 4-3 ahead, and then Bournemouth have equalised. It's literally in the dying minutes now.
Well, I mean, but I think that it's just evidence that you can bring in a new style, you can bring in your tactics and stuff, but sometimes, as you've alluded a lot to about the Parky players that he had before, sometimes you have to play the systems that you've got the players you've got, and just get the most out of them rather than insisting on formation. And I think Wilder's one of those managers that goes, what have I got? Okay, I'm going to make this team work like this, and it'll just make it happen. But also, he's Sheffield through and through. He literally is. And so if there's anybody who's going to be motivational or anything like that, so it's just got all the ingredients. So fair play to them, and great for the city of Sheffield, because after all the crap that's going on with Sheffield Wednesday, and the Hillsborough as well, the fact that they, a lot of people saying they want to knock down parts of that stadium or get rid of, it's just. The city needs some sort of, at least some respite from the fact that their 2 teams were both being particularly shit at one point. So
Yeah.
so not, but I'm not saying at the expense of Wrexham, but it is a good news story in many ways, because Sheffield's a great city, and it's a good footballing sort of city within the nation. So I think it's important that at least one of the two teams does better. Like I say, Sheffield Wednesday's gone, so can Sheffield United stay up? Clearly they can.
I'd love to know how much Chris Wilder made out of that debacle, because he would have got a massive payoff for being sacked, and then had a nice long holiday. And then if I was him, and they come knocking at my door again, I'd have said, yeah, no problem, I'll come and be your manager again, but I want a pay rise. I'd love to know how much he's made out of that whole piss take.
Well, they made their bed, they got to lie in it. That's the way I look at it. If they're going to be stupid enough to take a manager who's given you 90 points in a season.
Crazy.
All right, yeah, he was unfortunate not to get the top two. Any other year, you probably would have got into the top two. But it just so happened that Burnley and Leeds, 100 points, but ding-donging it with each other. You were unlucky. But you make a decision like that. I think you deserve it. I think you deserve to have your pocket picked, to be pretty nice. There you go. So time for the salt, vinegar, and sauce cork. I'll go first on this one. Unlike Jamie, I've got a bad feeling about this one rather than Swansea one, and I think it's going to be Wrexham 1, Sheffield United 2. I think they've got a lot of quality. I think Chris Wilder has got the team up. I know they've, like you say, you've had this blip recently, but I just don't think that Wrexham at the moment are strong enough to be able to take on a Sheffield, which are going to be flying when they come on Boxing Day. So I think it's going to be a 2-1 loss. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Sheffield United?
3-2 Wrexham win.
Nice. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Sheffield United?
They are not the scores I thought you guys were going to be coming up with. 3-2 Wrexham. Blimey.
Kiefer Moore is going to score as well, and he's going to go and sit in front of the Sheffield United fans and go like this.
Yeah. Because I don't know whether you heard, Daz, but basically when we bought him, so many of them on social media said, "Oh, we will pay the petrol money to drive him to you because he's that crap." Because of course he was the one who gave away the ball to a Sunderland player who then scored in the last minute of the playoff. Unfortunately, so they were lining up saying they're driving to us, and of course now he scored 8 goals in the league. 10 goals.
Not bitter at all, then.
No, not at all. No.
Okay. Right. Well, I think what I like about the Swansea Wrexham is that we've got a home win, an away win, and a draw. Yep. Now we've got a home away win. I'm going to go for a draw.
Oh,
there's going to definitely be some points out this week. So my decision is I wrote 2 results down, and I have written 1-1 and 2-2, and I can't decide between the two. So let's go 1-1. Let's go 1-1.
Excellent. You're doing the same tactics last year, basically just saying 1-0 every week, and that's going to get you to the top of the league. But hey, it worked, so why not stick with it? Let's wrap up. Exactly, yeah. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be looking back at all these games in next week's pod. So there we are. Our Christmas edition of the pod is over. Now, it's the first time, obviously, we've had Daz back for a week. And I don't know whether you're aware, Daz, but obviously you have a fan. And that fan is a feline fan, Hermes the cat. So we're going to give you a chance, especially all on your own. We're going to drop out to give your Christmas message to Hermes the cat.
I mean, first of all, I'm stunned that I get so much time and attention to share such important messages at this time of the year. So my message is to Hermes and all creatures, great and small, around the world. Have a Merry Christmas, NADOLIG LLAWEN, and a blwyddyn newydd dda to you all.
Daz, that was beautiful. Beautiful, and I'm sure Hermes really enjoyed that. We will be back on Monday the 29th of December, because obviously next Friday is Christmas, so we're going to be too busy destroying turkeys. I'm not eating them, I mean burning them in my case. But we will look back on the 2 Wrexham men's games versus Swansea and Sheffield United, and the Wrexham women's cup game versus Penybont. And we'll be looking forward to Wrexham versus Preston North End, the New Year's Day fixture away at Blackburn Rovers, Wrexham away at Derby County, and a huge game for Wrexham women away at Cardiff City Women. Plus, we 3 will look back at the season so far and talk about what we feel have been the highlights, the lowlights, and what we think is to come for both Wrexham and Cymru in the new year. Obviously, as usual, please let us know via the usual channels. Great to see all your comments and whatever, and how much you are enjoying the pod. But please leave your comments, social media, YouTube, email, eatmychipspodcast, allwoman@gmail.com, whatever that may be. Even if it's just wishes, NADOLIG LLAWEN and Blue Dinner with that. Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year. Of course, great to have these 2 back together for Christmas. Been a proper Christmas party, except, of course, we're not drunk. Or I don't think Daz is drunk. I'm never quite sure.
Not quite yet. Not yet.
I mean, to be fair, that vodka's going down really well, Daz, looking at it, to be honest.
There's only a lot of it.
But Daz, great to see you back. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Blue the Nail with that to everybody, and we'll see you around the grounds.
And of course, Jamie, you and me will be catching up on Boxing Day when Sheffield United come into town, and we're going to be having some food as well, which I'm quite looking forward to. Where are we going?
Where are we going?
Don't say McDonald's.
I can't remember where I booked.
Okay, good. Well, we're going somewhere.
Yeah, we're going somewhere.
And there goes the plug for a chance for a free meal.
Yeah,
you missed
no
that,
chance of that. We lost that one.
Steak in it, we're going.
No, we're not going to stake in it. Honestly. But Jamie, thank you very much for your time as usual.
Pleasure. Merry Jesus Day, everybody.
So on behalf of everybody at the pod, NADOLIG LLAWEN a blwyddyn newydd, happy Christmas, happy New Year. Well, I mean, we'll be back before the New Year anyway, so I don't know why I'm wishing you Happy New Year. We'll be back before then. But have a great Christmas. Eat far too much. Drink far too much. Get really angry when you can't win at PlayStation or Xbox like I do. And of course, as always, as we always say, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 4-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back to back promotions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast!